Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. We're back on the costumeco channel, and I'm Heidi from costumeco. And tonight I have a lovely guest. I have my two regular guests, which is Alicia and Justin Thomas. But I also have with us Tony Teflon, the Don. Tony Teflon is here with us, and he's sitting in the big iron throne tonight. Hey, Tony, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for everybody out there. You know what I mean? Solo layout. I didn't expect that. But thank you for everybody out here for rocking. You know what I mean? Thank you for having me. Love this show. I wish I can cover it more. I intended to, but I'm just so caught up with everything going on in my life right now. That's hard to me. So I'm happy to come on here and talk about it.
Well, I wanted to give you a solo layout to show up your big guns. Is that what they're called? The guns?
Is that what they're called?
The gun show.
Isn't that what they call them? Like the arms? They call them the guns?
Yeah, welcome to the
don't
gun
know.
show. Welcome to the gun show.
I don't know anything about, young people speak, as I mentioned to you guys last week.
People speak.
So so we're here tonight talking about Shogun episode 5, which is the mid-season, show episode.
Mm-hmm.
There's 10 episodes. And but before we do, why don't I just go around? Alicia, you're on camera tonight. You look lovely, by the way.
I am. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
What do you want to say hello to everybody?
Yes. Hello, folks. Thank you for having me on again, Heidi. It's always a pleasure being here. Yeah, I do apologize. I was like totally had a whole mountain of blankets behind me. They're still around. I just pushed back a little bit since we're on camera tonight. And this show has been so great. For those of you that don't know, I'm also covering it on my channel with my streaming partner Meeks. We are going to be doing episode 3. We just did episode 2 last night, and that was fun conversation. So come by for the lulls and to hear us talk about the ridiculousness of Blackthorn and all of the tomfoolery and the fucksery.
How about you, Justin? What are you up to? What have you been doing?
You know what I've been doing. You're my boss. So yeah, editing videos. But no, happy to be here again. And mid-season episode, I guess. So here for it. Happy Tony's here. Known Tony since way back. So excited to see his thoughts on it. So
facts.
Yeah. And what about you, Tony? Tony, what have you been up to lately? What are you up to?
I've been, on the channel, doing my thing on the channel. I have a novel that should be dropping in probably in about, I would say a month and a half. That'll be out. So been working on that, still working on that. That's what's taking up a lot of my time. It's on the final editing process right now at the editor. So once that's done and everything else, everything will calm down. Now working on these House of the Dragon videos, just was doing that right now. I was trying to get one out by tomorrow. So that is what's going on in my life right now. So hopefully get this book done. That's the most important thing.
I just want to say hi to everybody. So hi, Carl is here. We've got Kitty's dress in pink. I love that name. Jackie C is here. Natural Selection. Mina Ruth and Vincent Harper. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Jackie C is in the building.
Hey.
Man, I do not miss that panic of when Game
of
Thrones or House of the Dragon drops 2 trailers, and you got to be like, I got to get this out like yesterday.
Yo,
yeah.
To say that we have been in a panic since what was it? Was it Tuesday? Tony, when we heard that they was gonna drop on Thursday.
Yeah, I used to be like that, like try to rush the video out, but now I don't give a fuck. It goes out when it's done. I'm not gonna rush the quality in it. I'm just gonna put it out, and whoever watches it watches it.
the first trailer, the reaction that gets out is the guy that's out of breath. He's like, Renera is in it. Hold on. There's Allison. Oh my god, I just ran up the stairs.
Alicia. I was gonna say, so we're gonna talk about Shogun, and then maybe middle of the stream, we'll just touch on quickly like the posters and some of the graphics.
Oh yes, that would be lovely.
And then there were the 2 trailers, and then if Alicia, she hasn't seen them, so if she wants to bow out. But we were just talking. We'll probably do a reaction on Sunday night or something. Alicia, we'll figure that out.
Yes. Me and me, because when they drop these things, we have to come through and spend a whole hour, 2-3 hours talking about this little 45 seconds or 1 minute and 35 seconds of a trailer that they give us. We must dissect every screen, every scene in slow-mo. Double time slow-mo to see what's going on. We have to dissect these costumes, what everybody's going to be wearing, what it signifies in their reactions and their thoughts. So swing by. I don't know what time yet, but Sunday, myself, Meeks, Heidi, Tony, you are more than welcome to join if you have some time, sir. And same to you as well, Justin. Come through, and hopefully Lady D will be able to come through for a little bit, and we're just going to go through everything. And y'all know how we nerd on these Dragon Streets. So come by for the good times. You know it's going to be a good time.
What book, Tony?
My book. So that's basically
Yes.
it's a novel. It's a psychological thriller. I didn't try to go the George R. R. Martin route and do fantasy. A psychological thriller about a black female FBI agent who is trying to track down a kidnapper who's kidnapped over 60 kids and they can't figure it out. But if I had the synopsis, I would read the synopsis for you right now. Maybe I'll find it before and let Heidi read it for you. But it's taken me a very long time to write this book, so I'm very proud of it and everything else. And I hope people like it when it comes out.
I will be one of.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell y'all something about Tony. If you don't know, I've read his previous non-fictional works. The man could put a story together. So go support our boy.
Yeah, I remember at the con reading that boxing book. I was a kid that was boxing. I remember reading that one.
That was I wrote that book for the heavyweight champion of the world, Deontay Wilder.
I did.
Oh, I didn't know it was for Deontay.
Yeah, it was Deontay.
Yep.
I just want to, so I was, what I was going to say is that Tony, I'll be one of the first ones to buy your book. I'm a huge thriller fan. Like I actually, I love fantasy in the television genre, but for books, thrillers are my favorite. So I'll definitely be buying your book.
Well, thank you.
And you'll have to tell me when it comes out and I can promote it for you.
I will definitely do that. I'll let everybody know and hopefully people spread the word. And I will say that I have the usual suspects, which is the Don Tony Teflon Fill the Issues Guy Bridgeport. We will be doing a live stream with Gray Area on these House of the Dragon trailers this weekend. I don't know exact date.
Awesome.
So
I'm gonna pop in.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, but we're here to talk about Alicia, did you have to say something?
I just real quick ad-libbing, and since you guys may not have known Tony was a writer, you just found out. There's also two other very good fantasy genre writers that are in our fandom as well. That is Smokescreen. Sir Chris, he has a book out called The Crimson Gods. You can find that on Amazon, as well as the homie Quinn. Ideas Vice Fire, now known as Quinn's Ideas. You can find his series book 1, Tadia, is out, and he is now crowdfunding for his second book, which I believe is The Lie Between the Stars. The book 1 of that series will be coming out probably within another year or so, getting that put together. So shout out to those boys.
So let's talk. Okay, Tony, I was kind of bugging you a while back about Shogun, and you're like, "What's this show?" And I'm like, "Tony, you have to watch this show." So because you have been on our live stream before, like I've been kind of doing these regulars with Alicia and Justin. Do you want to just sort of tell us what your thoughts on the show are so far?
I love the show. I do 100%. But I'm not. I do have issue with what I'm perceiving. I don't know. I never read the books, so I only can go on what I've seen so far. And I don't like any type of genre, any type of show that plays savior when you have a savior in it. Savior trope, I should say. So if it's a white savior trope where there's a white guy who goes to a black neighborhood and all of a sudden these kids can do something because he arrived, or a black guy who goes to a white football team and now all of a sudden they know how to play. I don't like these things. And I see that in this show with this character because it's just far-fetched to me. And I don't know if this is a guy's retelling of his story, if it's a real true story or perceived to be so. But it just seems far-fetched to me that some guy who doesn't take a bath, right, who they perceive to be a barbarian, all of a sudden sleeps with the hottest chick in Japan. Like, for no reason. Like, for no reason. All of a sudden, this guy's getting numbskins out of all the chick. He gets the hottest one. This guy
and the one that's bilingual. She hot and intelligent.
Take a shower.
I don't know. I might argue that Fuji might be the hotter one.
Oh, hey.
And I think I'll actually touch on this later when we get into it. Yeah, don't discredit Fuji at all. No, but for my taste, y'all can think what y'all like. But I would, if I had to pick between the two, it would be Mari first. But that doesn't mean that Fuji's any type of slouch. No, she's cute as a button and also smart as a whip too, because she's handled some very dangerous situations very elegantly already.
I will really quick argue against the savior thing. I do agree that I think this relationship, and that was one of my talking points, is not great. I think that it's pushed too quick. I think it's odd, and I think it's kind of like unnecessary drama. So I agree with you on that, Tony. The whole savior thing, though, he is like a buffoon. Like, he's not saving anybody. So like I do like the guy that originally wrote this book was in a Japanese prison camp, World War II. It's based off, like, you know, it's fiction, but it's based off a real guy that did make it to Japan from England. Like, yeah. So like I get what you're saying, like this, but we have talked about this before. In my opinion, it's definitely not the white savior thing, you know, like Last Samurai does. He's really not teaching them anything.
Well, I will say this too, but when you look at what they've shown so far when it comes to relationships with the women, he is the only one they show that respects from. Like, every Japanese guy in this country doesn't respect his wife. He doesn't like his wife. He beats his wife. That's what they're showing. All of a sudden, he's the guy who's willing to risk his life because he can die at any time for saying anything. But he's willing to risk his life, defend the honor of these women that he doesn't even know. So when you add those things together, it makes it seem like, to me, that they're trying to play the white savior. And listen, I understand it was written by an English guy. You're going to big up your countrymen. You're going to big up obviously, right? That's what you're going to do. But to me, with those things, to me, take me a little bit out of it. Besides that, I love the show. I love everything about the show. I love everything about it. So
I agree. I completely agree on the relationship. And he does it for like Folly in the one episode to like distract them. He acts like, oh, I'm the but Tony's absolutely 100% on the mark here. As far as like, because I asked this I said, does anybody know about Japanese culture and like how open they are sexually? I was confused by this.
They are not.
I completely agree. I don't know anything about Japanese culture, but it's been made clear that Blackthorn is like the king of chivalry, per se. So yeah, I'm on board with you, Tony.
Yeah. I have to say, Tony, I haven't read the book, but this is just what I read. That the original book was the White Savior book for sure, and the dude who wrote it, he is a British author, white British author. He was in a prison camp in Japan, so I guess he spent time there and wrote this story. But it is based on real characters, but. My understanding is that the showrunners did try to change it. Originally, everything was told through his point of view, and then they changed it to the 3 points of view, like to Mariko and Toranaga. So maybe it's just not coming through yet. I know what you're saying. I think that's why maybe they were trying to sow some doubt about whether that was actually Mariko who slept with him, if maybe it was a courtesan or not.
See, I let you guys jade me on that because I had no question that was her, and then I got in here, and the show is confusing. I'll admit that.
There's no doubt in my mind.
And everybody's like, oh, it's not her. I'm like, maybe it's not. It's not clear, but I thought it was 100%. We need to think of another term, though. It's not quite savior. It's like he is like the king of chivalry, or he's definitely macking over there. Like, he's definitely like they're portraying him as a emotional open person, and he's definitely doing that. So,
but I would say that this is a person that they perceive to be a barbarian, right?
Yeah.
Like, and this barbarian, you know, can still pull the hottest chick. What if Brad Pitt went over there? Would he be president to take over the whole place? That's the way it seems like it's coming. It'd be as if I went to some hillbilly bar. And all of a sudden, all these guys think of me as the N-word. And all of a sudden, within 3 days or 3 weeks, I got these guys over here doing the kid and play dance, and everybody's on me. You know what I mean? It just don't work for me. Because it's far-fetched, especially in a situation where we just seen someone get boiled alive. So you should be on your P's and Q's at any time. You should be thinking, I could die any second. But for some reason, this guy just feels like, I can say what I want and do what I want. I ain't worried about it. When it comes to defending these women, I'm the guy to defend all these women. And they know Japanese men love their women. I just don't believe that. I don't believe that all the Japanese men they show interacting with women, they are all like brutal to them and all mad. And I'm sure there are Japanese men who love their wives and respect them and treat them great, but they're not showing that. They're only showing him do that. And that's the problem I have.
It is important to note. Now, this is especially an episode where we do see an advancement in Blackthorn's behavior, where they start to respect him. And Tony is right here, because what happens is that he comes in, he doesn't know the language, he doesn't know the culture, so he just starts, like I said in earlier episodes, starts like throwing out skill sets, right, to try to become valuable to these people. Like, the worst thing you could do in a group of people that you don't know is start like telling them they treat their girls like shit. Now, it is really asserted multiple times in this story that you can kill your wife if you want to, that your wife is property and you can kill her. So Tony's right on that. Yeah, and he is the one that is like, speaking for, chivalry and speaking like, what seems to be in contrast with their regular beliefs. And it seems that they are a lot more harsh. But in this episode, we do see him start to relate to them. I would argue that he gets his relationship, I feel, because she is also an outcast of sorts. So there is a connection. She's the linguist. But I get what you're saying, and it is worth looking into. Now, this show is made with like a lot of Japanese people included. So, it is interesting. But I mean, you can't really argue that this guy has not just been like the most thoughtful dude when it comes to like women's rights in this society. That would probably get your ass killed, especially in 1600. Like, you're not going to go there and be like, women, you shouldn't be treating women like this. Like, what?
Yeah. Buntaro, like Mariko's husband, is supposed to be a horrible, horrible human being now.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we don't get to see how other husbands treat their wives, right? We had the one dude who was like, I lay down, he draws his sword, and then the next thing you know, there's seppuku, and he's got to kill his child. And I don't know. And then we've got Toranaga. We see his relationship with one of his wives. It seems to be like a fairly friendly relationship, but we don't have a lot of examples.
The thing with Blackthorn here, though. He's going into this using words that he cannot, for whatever reason, still grasp. You can't just say anything. And this is the mindset that he's in for the vast majority of this episode, to his detriment at the end when something really big does happen. I won't jump that far ahead, but he has to learn a very hard lesson that your words are not wind in this land. If you say something, that is what it is. So you have to choose your words carefully, a caution that Mariko gave him multiple times this episode, and he ignored it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do we want to get into it, Heidi?
I have to say before we go any further, personally speaking, my episode 5 was my favorite of the season so far. Like, what were your overall thoughts of this episode compared to the other episodes? Because Justin, I know you said you were there was a bit of a dip in episodes 2, I think 2s and 3.
On this one, I think that, again, like Tony's thesis about like his behavior with the women definitely play. I felt the relationship was too quick, and that might be, I think he's touching on something there. I don't know yet, as far as like the depiction of the character. Are they forcing it too hard? But this was a good episode to understand that he is finding his place here and starting to accept that he's going to be, because he is like the dog. He's a play toy to Toranaga. You know what I mean? Like, so like, he's not really in control, but also like he does have some amount of influence, and he's gaining more. So like Alicia said, nothing is win. So like in this episode, when you see him hang the bird, right? Like he's bringing in some of like he knows how to hunt, he knows how to dress the bird, age the meat per se. So he learns that when he misspeaks, he says like, that you'll die if you do it. So I feel that like this showed the important, like this whole like community, though, from the way it's depicted, is one bad day away from like having zero population with seppuku. Like everybody is always like on the edge of killing themselves. Like I don't get that. Like, is that really realistic? Everybody is always like, wow, like literally 3 times an episode. Everybody that's important is like, well, I'm just offing myself.
Honor,
but
Jesus honor Christ means that much to them, to where yes.
But it's not even just by seppuku or suicide, ritual suicide. It's also, there seems to be constant threats.
Yeah.
Like there's earthquakes and there's warring, like Tony, what do you think about that? What do you think about how the culture views like life and death? I mean, it's constantly mentioned in the show, right?
Yeah, it's constant. And I would say I'm not that versed on Japanese culture, but from what I've seen, this is a consistent thing that I've seen throughout a whole bunch of movies. So I must believe that this is the way it is. But it does seem like the slightest thing, like, oh, you touched my bird now because you did. You die. Like for something so stupid, and he stresses that, like how
he made the rule.
How is this possible that, I said one thing and this is what it is. And now, again, this is the same thing in European society with the lords and everything else. Listen, any lord could have any peasant murdered at the drop of a hat for anything. It doesn't matter. When you have that type of society, this is what it is. So I know that we're talking about Japanese culture, but the same thing was in European culture too. They did the same thing. If the Lord, you got out of line and the Lord said, you know, I'm going to fuck your wife, and you said, no, you're not, then he can kill you. And that's just what it was, you know, whether it was Greece, Rome, or whatever. That's just so they're playing on the same things that we have already seen. I think that's the fact we haven't seen it like this way through Japanese. That's a little bit more shocking. But I do like the way that he is presented about it, how he's taken back by it. And hopefully from this, he'll understand that, you know, his words have a lot of power and he needs to watch what he says.
That's why you say Nero. I had a wonderful time at dinner, and so did my wife. I'm going to leave now.
I have to say also, but I have to say that it is interesting what Tony says about John being like he's kind of woke, you know, like is 1600. He's in 1600. Would he really? I mean, someone was saying, why did he say, "Of course, your wife is property" at the dinner, but he was saying that likely because he was just not trying to offend Buntaro. There's nothing he could say to Buntaro. Like he's trying to make small talk with him at dinner, and there's nothing, you know. But of course, they were having what do they call that? Where two guys are like, eating,
man,
with throwing out the stuff out of the bowl and pouring the sake in it.
Yeah, that was realistic to me. Like that, I can see a European guy saying, "We don't drink out of these little sissy shot glasses. We drink like real. Now let's go. Let's drink. Let's see what you got." You know what I mean? I can see that because that happens to this day, right? I've seen women challenge men like, "I'll drink." Women have told me, "I'll drink you under the table, Tone." And I was like, "You probably could, but I'll join you."
But we both gonna be under there, though.
It's interesting about the glass size too, because there's actually a story about Toranaga, the real Toranaga. I can't say his name, the real guy, but like how he was presented with a series of dishes, and it was kind of like, this bed's too big, this bed's too small, this bed's just right type of deal, like, you know, like Goldilocks. But it was about cup size, like Tony said. I mean, like, so like. The only thing I can think of in association with this from my real life, and this is why I agree with Tony, is because when I was a DJ, I got invited to go to like these vigilantes, it's a motorcycle club in Detroit, the Clubhouse lot. And I thought, why would I go there? Because if I say anything to anybody that they don't like, I'm fucking done, right? Like, I'm just done here. Like, I have no room to move here. Like, I can only do wrong, right? Like, I'm going to be on my tippy toes. Why would I go to a party like that? And like, he is at a party like that, but even worse, he is at a party. Yeah, you get what I mean? Like, it's worse. So like, like if you trip up, I can't. If I talk to a girl at that party, I might be talking to somebody's old lady. It doesn't matter. I fucked up, so I definitely can't be screaming about like how you should treat women, right? Even though I would for you women, I'd be yelling it. I don't care if they killed me.
You defend the guys over there, and you defend his wife. He's with all his brothers and his friends, and you by yourself. And you like, and he said something bad about his woman, and then you say, "Hey, don't be talking to your woman like that. That's your ass." Mr.
Yeah, just the name.
Be like, "Yo, who are you to get involved in my business, bruh?" Especially someone who's not of my race, not of my culture, who I'm looking down upon already. Who are you to say anything? Your ass is kicked. And that's just the bottom line. No matter what, and so that's why this seems unrealistic to me. That part about everything else I love, and I don't want to harp on that and everything else, but everything else I love about the show, I just don't think it's realistic that this barbarian gets the hottest chick in Japan. Please.
It might help that not a lot of people understand him, to be fair. So like, not a lot of these dudes understand him. You know what I mean? What he's saying.
You don't have to understand.
No, I get it, Tony. I'm with you. I get it. But
when someone starts raising their voice and looking at you with their eyes all open, you know what the fuck they saying without knowing what the fuck they saying. You know, body language.
Exactly.
But the dinner scene.
Thing was.
Sorry, go
ahead. In that scene, from how the conversation was going, he knew something was up, but he couldn't understand Mariko's husband. Okay, fine. Mariko told you again. Choose your words carefully and how you navigate this. And he's trying to stand up for Mariko, and he goes in, here maybe women are property and you can do whatever to your wife, but you should probably be doing better. And you force her to translate that. There is nothing, even as tactful as she was, there is absolutely no way she could have phrased those words that her husband, who gives off all of the tiny peen energy, is not going to get at her about what you just said. It might not be right here in front of your face, but you should have already known. You've been here for long enough to know how these people are, but you made her provoke him like that. You used her as your instrument to do that while you thought you were helping. And again, this is how stupid and childish he is. He doesn't know how to properly read the room. And also at that point, why did you just drink out the damn sake bottle? Why are we wasting
if you
just
want
threw some
to find
perfectly good soup away just to do this?
What he should have done, Tony, tell me if you agree, is found something in common with him to talk about, like having sex with his wife. Am I right?
You know, something like that. You know,
Yeah.
something like that.
That was an awkward dinner.
Yeah.
You know what's funny?
Started off okay, but
I was saying to my husband, we were watching it together, and I said, "This kind of reminds me of a bedroom farce. Like it reminded me like something like one of those. There's a movie with Richard Burton." And sorry, I can't remember it, but it felt like one of those like super awkward plays, an Edward Albee type play, where they're all like sitting together and they just progressively get more and more drunk and violent. But it's interesting about the women being property thing, because at the same time, while a woman is technically property, you don't, you know, like if you owned a beautiful Ferrari, for instance, you wouldn't just go out and crash your Ferrari, would you? Like, it just seems like very, very strange thing that you would just all of a sudden, like, and I'm saying this through the 1600s. I mean, obviously, I don't think of women as being property at all, but, you know, but Bentaro is, I think he's just so insecure and so like it's so strange because we were chatting about this last week. There's this real juxtaposition between him being this amazing warrior, but then just being a really small man in many ways. Like, Tony, what do you think about that idea?
Yeah, I think that when you look at that, women being property, and they show that this guy, maybe he's modern or anything else. Look at the history of it. Let's go through it. We use today's terms. We use today's terms. The black man is not very much liked in America at all. Right? This is a known fact. You know, today we're a little bit better, but back in the days it was worse. So we got to figure back then it was even worse. But yet the black man still got the right to vote over the white woman, right? So that just shows you how white men value white women. So if white men value white women like that, then how is this guy all of a sudden the savior? He's the feminist.
Exactly.
Of this time.
There's no way he is like this in England.
And they keep doing so again. Like, this show is like heavily supervised by Japanese people, and I am surprised by how much they keep. Like, if you watch any breakdown of this show, by the way, it keeps being like cited that they can kill their like oh, and you know, like, and it's to add stakes. I think it's to add stakes, like that she could be killed at any moment, right? That's supposed to be the stakes here, and that's why I thought this was a great episode. I don't really like to relate. I don't know how he survived. What did he do once he got into that house that he survived? But whatever, like, we can get onto that later. But like, he's here. They obviously don't, like, you know, for a society that has so much seppuku in this series and has also so much, I'm giving up like my son in myself. And also, I own my wife and I can kill her. And if you touch this duck, you're dead. Is there no nuance in this? Is that really realistic? I mean, like, I'd like to talk to a supervisor, like, or anybody on the show, and ask, like, is this a real depiction? There's no common sense of like, yeah, that guy just like misspoke. Like, I know they're trying to install a certain thing, but I think there's a line. It gets a little bit crazy, right?
I think a lot of it does come from the book. Again, I haven't read the book. Cassie's reading the book, so I'll have to ask her. But a lot of it does come. Like, that was supposed
to us, it seems. To us, it seems like that would be the most asinine thing. Like, you know, what with the freaking pheasant that was up there, he thought that this was going to be the best way to let it set and ferment in open air in its own juices. I guess he didn't understand that that's not how you actually properly do what you're trying to do with meat. And he made that decree. No, I have to take this special because he does want to show them that he's putting some weight on the ways of their culture, and he thinks that doing this action will make them see that about him, and he just doesn't take into consideration No. They know, they already see the shit coming a mile away. They're skilled at what they do. He doesn't listen because he's saying, "No, okay, if anybody touches that, they die." And I'll give him a little bit of grace in saying that he probably said those words specifically because they were two of the easiest references that he could remember the translated words for.
Yeah, okay, so
but still, he had to realize you can't blame this woman for doing what you told her to do.
I can, though. I can. Number one, I think the aged meat thing is a different climate. That's why it didn't work. She was doing it properly as he would in England. I think the climate is different. So
yeah.
Also,
they've not seen that.
We're implying in the series now that there's no figuratively spoken words, right? If that's what we're saying, that he said that has to be done. Because when Toranaga leaves the council, they say you should just commit seppuku right now. And there's jokings about that. So we're supposed to believe that there's no nuance in this culture. This very human culture that this guy that barely speaks the language can say this, and you're going to chop his head off, right? Like this guy that's barely in the community. There are jokes about like there is sarcasm there. There is nuance. I don't buy it. I don't buy that she would do that. I'm sorry.
In that moment, I think that for the line that you referenced, there is only that nuance there because they're making fun of him in that situation. They're basically saying, this is still going to get you cooked. We're still going to have our way with what we want to do with you. So saying, you just go ahead, commit, ritualistic suicide. It's not going to matter. That's just them messing with him. It doesn't mean that they're saying it to where that they could just say it as in they're joking about
Hi,
it
Carla.
in the context that you're giving.
Carla's birthday.
He was given an order when
Is her
it comes
birthday?
to yes, happy name day, Lady Carla. Always love
Happy
to see you in the
birthday,
chat.
Carla.
There's a specific thing that he told them to do. So yes, he should realistically say they were told to follow his order. He's in charge there. So if you say anybody touches that, they die. When somebody touches it, that's the culture they've been raised in. That word is law.
Yeah, I guess I don't know enough about it. I mean, I know even in Roman times that like Octavian Augustus like stopped somebody from killing their cook in a similar situation. I know that humans are humans. I know this. So I don't buy it in storytelling. I know they're trying to depict stakes and they're trying to really draw lines here. I think they're going a little bit hard with it though. I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I don't believe it. I don't believe that this guy that barely speaks the language said a word and they're going to chop his head off over it. I'm sorry. People are still people. Life is still life. It is worth something to the Japanese people. They decided to make this show and do that. I think the show is great, but I'm calling bullshit on some of it. I think they're trying to create stakes and tension. I don't see it.
Yeah, it seems way over the top. I mean,
yeah.
They set it up. Obviously, they have the guy with the rocks in the garden. They seem he likes him, and obviously, they set it up for him to do it. And maybe they're trying to prove a point, but it just seems like the wrong point to prove, and the wrong way to prove it. And the other chick, we fucking this chick, right? So we know that's coming out because the chick with he gave the gun to knows he slept with this chick, and everyone should know because they don't even have walls in there. What are those things? Because panels.
Yeah.
So
panels,
like saran wrap.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you this straight up about me. If it was me in there, you gonna hear me through the house. Ain't no panels gonna control that. I got brick walls that people hear from the outside. They come to me like, God damn.
I had a neighbor.
They say, Tony, you were crying so hard.
Oh,
we heard you.
Right.
We heard you.
I had a hot neighbor years ago. He used to always bring girls. He was a goth. He used to bring girls home from the bar. And then like at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, all I would hear is like hollering and screaming.
It's gonna
going on, and then I'd run into him in the hallway and I'd be like, "Oh, hi!"
It's gonna be like Lassie and Porky's if you in my house.
If meat comes see you at Porky's, there's gonna be some volume involved.
I have to say though, I kind of like John. He's sort of like he's a bit like as Justin says, he's sort of a bit of a buffoon.
Yeah.
He's definitely hilarious. Like he's super funny. And I think Cosmo Jarvis, who plays him, is doing a great job. Like he's just like some of the stuff he does is so surprising. There was one scene, I'm going to ask you guys about this, what you thought. I thought it was such a great scene where he goes and he begs Toranaga, I love how they just I was saying this to Jack. They sort of set up their banners and then they just sort of sit there on a chair, like they're like outdoors. Okay, and you can come. It's kind of like visiting Dany on her throne. You know, like okay, I'm going to go visit Dany in Dragonstone, but no, it's just like they're outdoors. There's some banners
like tailgating
there.
fancy.
Yeah. And he's like, I ask your permission to give me back my men and let me go home, have my ship and everything. And then the next thing you know, there's like an earthquake, which I was just like, wow, if you want to just like, let's add some conflict here.
Yeah.
That had to be paid off.
Oh, amazing. But my favorite part was when they had to dig Toranaga out of the soil. And then he's like, where are my swords? And then he hands him Fuji's like, pathetic, sad, what do they call them? They were poorly made. And like the person who owned them was shamed and everything. Yeah. And the gesture from Toranaga was like, it was like the most amazing thing he could possibly have ever done, what John did for him. I just love that scene so much. What did you guys think of that scene?
Again, I want to keep her. I love the show, but I want to keep her. He's the first one down. He's the first one to jump. Nobody, these guys, they've been with this dude their whole lives. They love him and everything else, but he's the first one to jump down to save one.
Even his son.
He's the guy when this chick's husband is fighting for his life, who wants to go back and save him. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit too much. But as for this, I thought it looked amazing. Like the special effects that they did was amazing. Yeah. And now that he's got those swords may not have meant anything before, but now that they're his, they do mean something.
Yeah. God damn it, Tony. You're
making natural selection. Leave Fuji alone. It's not her fault. She didn't do it.
Listen, I brought up him wanting to go back as well. And Tony is really touching on something here, not just because he's a guest and I like him, but you're touching on something. He also was the only one that wanted to go back. They are making the Japanese people look very much so just like non-emotional, just like, I don't know, just like robot like people. Because also not only now I can kind of, like take the whole women thing and be like, okay, he's just kind of being a douche and he's getting away with it. It's unbelievable, but it is what it is. But now he's touched on another good point here. He's the only guy that wants to go back. He's the first one in the hole. I do like what happens with the swords. I do like that he gives them and he gives them a meaning. But at the same time, we do see Toranaga is playing. This is what I'm hoping for, because Toranaga is playing everybody here, including Blackthorn. Okay, like because he doesn't need him necessarily. Also, like, can we talk about what happened with his son? Okay, like, because there is a big payoff here. Like, his son just shot cannonballs at people, which, I don't care what culture you are, that ain't cool. Like, it's bad. Like, it's going to cause problems. Like, and so he takes away his military power, but then he says he's kind of proud of him because he had some people step into action. Like I've said, Toranaga's been buying time. I never believed that Toranaga needed Blackthorn to teach anybody anything. He's buying time and seeing what people do. He leaves the council because the council doesn't agree with you. Don't legitimize the council. Make their rules illegitimate. Leave them. Say they're a bullshit council. The fighting the commission in Vegas doesn't want me to box. Fuck it. They're a bogus commission. Get what I mean? You put shade on the authority, not argue the laws within the authority. Am I making sense here? So like this is what he's been doing. Okay. Yes. So he's pushed in. His son has now done something stupid, by the way.
Yeah, I think what Chiron is saying, hopefully I'm saying your name right. Yeah, I think Blackthorn is a convenient excuse tool for Toranaga. So I think that they're maybe, Tony, what do you think of this? Maybe they're using John, they're making it seem like, oh, he's our white savior, but really, because we know Toranaga is a very good, I don't know what is the word.
He's
Alicia?
A good tactician.
Okay, but let me finish because we haven't proven that yet. We're hoping to prove that because his son.
I think we're starting to see some of it.
He hasn't been proving that since episode 1.
Well, no, because the actions need to pay off. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. I just need to finish here. His son has done something stupid, but it has brought people to choose sides. You guys get what I mean? So he likes it. Mm-hmm. It was an arrogant, stupid, dumb thing to do. But it works right now because people need to pick sides. There's a time when you need to shit or get off the fence. And
well, obviously, someone mailed the severed head, right? Like someone mailed the severed head to Ishido. Like,
Yeah,
Toranaga did that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
right?
he's playing off other people's stupidity. I do think he's smart. I do think he's being intelligent. I don't think he needed anybody to teach him anything. He's sitting and waiting. He's in the corner watching. And
Okay, what?
yeah.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Tony. What do you want to say?
No. I agree with what Justin's saying here. You know, when you go through the whole situation again, I'm not going to harp on this whole situation, but I keep doing it. You know, it just seems like they're making, to me, Japanese men not put them in a good light, and I think that that's one flaw. I think maybe it changes later on, but why does it change? You know what I mean? Because they're setting it up now that it's going to change because they've been in contact with him. Now all of a sudden people are going to respect their wives more because of him, and maybe that's what it seems like it's going. You know what I mean? And I don't want it to go that way, because I don't believe that that's reality or what would really happen in a situation like that and everything else, you know. So, but as for, you know, the son situation and the cannons and everything else, his son was, you know, was counseled and felt like he had to step up his game because he wasn't getting the respect that he felt he should get for being this dude's son. And this is his actions, and his actions were wrong at the time, but they can also be used to an advantage. And his dad's smart enough to use it to an advantage, and that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, he's not going to look weak and say my son messed up. He is going to wait to see who goes with who, and he's going to make because you don't
Hi, Linda.
If he sat there and said, "Oh, my son shouldn't have done that," that's indecisive. That's not a strong warrior. That's not a strong military. He needs to make a decision, and now he's more importantly making everybody else make a decision, because everybody else has kind of been fucking about with him. You know what I mean? Even Blackthorn, you know, making Japan better for women every day. But you know what I mean?
Listen, I have to say hi to Linda, because last week I was getting confused. I was like, "Oh, who is it in Japan?" Linda's in Japan.
Yes.
Linda, you guys have the Blackthorn rule? Makes like
that's what I was saying. Linda, can you clarify for us? I told Heidi that you're not in Japan, but that is where you come from.
Yes,
Like,
she sent me a wonderful package from Japan.
Yeah, me too.
This does sound like a story of somebody that went somewhere and came back. Like,
by the way, look at the size of Tony's. Tony, what do you call that? Is that a stein?
This is a thug mug.
A thug mug.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the things I want to touch on, and I just want to have everyone's take on.
Why do you drink out of such a small glass?
you know how we've been talking about, Tony. I don't know, like there's a mole, right? There's supposed to be a mole. In Toranaga's camp, and we were talking about maybe it's like, was it Mushi or whatever? And then so they made a point this episode. Did you notice that, where Toranaga was like in the, I don't know what they call them, in the caverns there, they have the crows, and he said, you know, you're my most trusted samurai and everything. And I felt like that they were making a point of saying that to then later have the payoff of them claiming that the old gardener was the spy, which of course sounds like it's all bullshit, right?
Spot on, Heidi. Go ahead.
So what do you guys all think about that? I just
the spy,
a rookery. Thank you.
Yeah, the spy is definitely the pigeon man. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's undercover for him there, and they use the death of this guy as to cover it up, because he didn't want anyone to think that it was him. You know, it was the flim flam. You know, he ran the he ran the jig on him real quick. You know, but I think what they're setting up here is that he said the guy's a samurai. So when he does get found out and they step to him, he can fight. He ain't the old man. He's, a feeble man he's pretending to be. He's a guy who can kick some ass. And I think they're setting up the fact that he's going to kick some ass in the future by saying that.
Yeah. But do you think that Toranaga knows? I felt like Toranaga knows.
Oh, no.
Okay,
you don't think so?
Yeah, we are dealing. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alicia.
I was going to say, I think Toranaga does know. And once it got to that point, my thought was that man even taking the pheasant part of the plan, or did it become part of the plan once he found out, what was going on in the house? He got the report that week and was like, okay, A, B, C, D. Enough time has passed now that everyone is hating on this peasant and they want to get rid of it. So one guy, and they make sure to note that it was an older gardener.
Apparently he was ill.
Perhaps perhaps they're using that as just the ruse. He couldn't take it, climbed up, took it out, and then was killed. I will say though, for the deep scheming that is going on, I very slightly question whether he's actually dead. And that's not to say that everybody was in on it all along. No, I'm saying that there are few key people in different spots that are watching to see what the cause and effect of some things are going to be to report. And that is how Tanaka could have used that whole situation. That old man could have just got some money and been sent off to like the southernmost province in the kingdom, and he'll never be seen in that part of the world again. So I don't know.
Yeah. So
because how would they kill him? Like they were saying that it would be,
it's convenient that he's already dead. So
yeah, because they were
made it seem like his body isn't even anywhere to be found. He's just
because Mariko was like, oh, he should be so thankful that that he would be, this would be the end of his life. It's a much better ending than just dying of old age or
that at my funeral.
Apparently he was still. Yeah. But then I'm like, but how would they kill him? That's so awful. Tony, what do you think?
The old man with the pigeons.
Yeah, the old man who cut down the pheasant and
the gardener.
They just used his death as a cover so that the spy doesn't get. It's just ironic that he happened to kill himself for what he did, and they just took advantage of his situation. And that just seems what this guy has done since he's been there. Every time we've seen him from episode 1, he's taken advantage of the mistakes or anything that he can. Whether it was trying to him to escape from the city, he always takes advantage of things. When people do little messes up, he's quick to capitalize on it. And I think that's just what he did right here. He'd seen this. He knew that they were looking for the spy. He seen this guy die. Boom, make this guy the spy. All right, we'll still go.
Give him another spy.
Yeah.
By the way, when I was watching, when I watched that scene, like Jack, my husband, called it out right away. He goes, someone's going to cut that pheasant down and they're going to be dead. Like it was kind of obvious. Like they set it up.
Chekhov's pigeon.
Oh yeah. For his Chekhov's pigeon, Chekhov's pheasant. But one of the things that sorry, I totally lost it. Go ahead.
Okay, so what we're dealing with here is a little bit of a paradox in storytelling.
I lost my train of thought.
We go ahead. You can jump back in. So we're dealing with a paradox in storytelling. This is a chess master. This happened a lot in Westworld with Anthony Hopkins' character, Dr. Ford. Okay, so it's like, is he like? I think everybody's been spot on with he's reacting to what people do. He's looking to see what people do, and he reacts from it. That's more believable. Also, we do need to shine some light on how unstable, how unstable, and how bad my vocabulary is.
You're in a stable.
Yeah, no, when you're in a stable, how unstable it can be. You're in an earthquake. There we go. We got there. It's a Mad Lib. But no, how unstable this whole structure is. This is a time where the Shogun runs elite. The Shogun runs the show. This is a time where they let a lot of the only thing I can compare this to is before the colonization of the Americas, Native Americans, tribalistic infighting. This is similar to that because they're very small armies. Like in retrospect, they're only like 200, 300 people, stuff like that. So this isn't just feudal lords or anything like this. Is even smaller than that. I'm not saying the stakes aren't high, but I'm saying there's small numbers of people that can sway a fight. So like leaving the council, like I've spoken about before, watching to see what happens here, making people move to action. He is a chess master. But he's not like expecting. He's not like, oh, I'm gonna get him to like kill that gardener or cover it up like this. But yeah, he's playing off of other people's moves because he's waiting for them to react, and then he's making a move. So it seems though that he is going to come out on historically. I guess spoiler alert: the guy does pretty well, but there are some problems. But like Blackthorn. I think that a lot of people are running around like pigeons with their heads cut off, and he is playing a game, and they're gonna need to come into and showcase like him. I think we need an episode that really showcases Toranaga. He kind of like comes in every episode and then leaves, right?
Yeah.
Like, in which is powerful. That's like ambiguity. It's powerful in storytelling. But also I did want to touch on too. Did we notice a change in behavior with the translator who I can't pronounce her name, but the one we've been talking about?
Some people say Mariko or Mariko.
Yeah, she's been smiling the last few episodes and now she's miserable again. And we do get her backstory as well. Do we want to talk about her backstory?
Yeah, sure. I remember what I was going to say. So the whole thing with Blackthorn there, when he hung the pheasant, and then was like, no one cut this down, otherwise you'll be killed, and words matter, right? Like, she's like, you use those words, and therefore I sort of fulfilled that sort of thing. And so what it sort of reminded me is, I don't know, Tony, what you think about this, but when in Good Morning Vietnam, Robin Williams' character, he goes into a shop and he sees a dog and he wants to buy the dog. And then he buys the dog, and then they handed the dog to him in a paper bag because, it's food for them. And he's like completely like traumatized. And so that sort of reminded me of John, who was like, well, what do you mean you took my words literally? Like, you know what I mean? I didn't mean that. So like, what do you think about that? The idea that there's a definite culture divide there, like, the words have meaning, and also just, like Fuji is obviously, she looks at him. There's a whole moment where I think Bentaro says, what's it like, serving a savage? And she's like, no, he's not a savage. He's whatever the word is that he's been given.
Yeah. And then the other chick, when he asked, this guy hasn't asked to sleep with you, and she said no, he has different taste, right? Which just shows you that eventually she gonna flip and she gonna say something that who he actually slept with, and that's gonna set that whole situation up. But I think again, and I see Linda here saying that it was based on a real life character and everything else, and I'm sure it was. I'm 100% sure it was. And I'll say this.
Oh, was he sleeping with the women?
Yeah, no,
we don't know that. We don't know that. Yeah.
I just don't believe that some man who doesn't wash his ass for once a month bags the hottest chick in Japan. He
just had a bath though, Tony. He was in the bath. He was in the Springs.
It's not even about the hottest chick though. His behavior would get him in trouble. Like we spoke about it.
She's a highborn woman. Like Tony's correct. Like she is.
Yeah, but she's also got issues. She's got daddy issues. She's got a lot of issues.
She has some baggage, right?
Yeah, and that fits. But
and it's sort of funny. Like I imagine being at a dinner party and then your spouse says, oh, tell this other person about yourself. This very, very personal story that's why it reminded me of an Edward Albee play. It just was like, it's just so awful.
Well, not to be a dick, but I would have told her when she was demanding of him, oh, he's tired and drunk. I'm like, why don't you make up a story? I'm not going to be your puppet. Like, honestly, like that was some bullshit right there. It's like, oh, we're both playing this game now. Because I mean, between me and everybody else in the chat, if I came in and like, I was the only guy that lived out of like fighting all those guys. And then my wife was with this barbarian, which is like Rome, everybody's barbarian, but them, I would have killed him straight up. So I don't see him getting out of that, but I wouldn't be playing that bullshit game of, oh, I better tell him a story. He's tired. Then give him a fucking warm cup of milk and go to bed. That's what you know what I mean? Yeah,
everybody events. It doesn't matter. Once you start drinking, it doesn't matter who you with. If anyone's been in a fight, they gonna talk about it. Everyone want to hear war stories. War stories. Everybody. It doesn't matter. To this day, if you go hang out with people, somebody will tell you a war story. If they start drinking them, how they were in the bar, beat up 3 people by themselves, and they were Roadhouse before Patrick Swayze. This is just what it is. When you're drinking between men, everyone's got some type of conquest and are just waiting, bated breath to tell the story.
Natural thinks Bentaro is hot. I actually saw the actor. You know who I think is really hot is Ishido.
The actor might be
the Ishido in IRL. Oh my gosh, that guy is totally hot.
But again, like Blackthorn doesn't have any, like he's not eager to tell that story, Tony. Like, right? Like he's not eager to partake in what you're talking about. He's like, what, I gotta say something? Like he's so sensitive, right? He's such a sensitive little pilot. He's like, oh, I don't have any. Like that's why I said drink some milk, tell him some shit because you're. He also
he doesn't have any good stories at all.
Guess who's the guy you don't want showing up when you're with his woman? The guy that just survived wherever the hell he just survived.
Yeah,
that's
there's so many rules, right?
I don't know if he really did survive that the way they're saying he survived.
Yeah, I think he paid. Remember, by the way, I said that he probably survived. Did I not say that? And one of the people had said, and this is what I think happened. I still think this is what happened because I saw somebody else mention this, and I totally agreed. Is he would have had some money on him.
Yeah.
and he would have paid them
Mhm.
off. That's probably why he didn't want to say how he got himself out of that. What do you
Common
think of that,
prac-
Tony?
I
Common
think he got bagged
Made a
up and they
deal.
said, "Listen, you're gonna work for us, or we're gonna kill you."
That
And he's back. He's a spy back there. I think he's dirty. I think he's
Exactly.
Oh, interesting.
exactly.
He killed too many
Yes.
people, and even though that ransoming a knight was common procedure in European lifestyle, and it probably would have transferred. Like if I was a knight, my coat of arms would be dollar signs, it'd be Bitcoin, it'd be whatever you needed.
Mine would be
time.
coffee.
I'd be like, "Don't kill me," you know what I mean? Because that's how the way it was. Peasants died, knights got ransomed. You know,
Mhm.
after Agincourt, all the French showed up in London
Right back.
to get prison. You know what I mean? Like that shit
Yeah.
worked. You know, that was the way of life. So like I don't exactly know how Japanese culture works, but I can tell you he stabbed about 13 dudes in the gut before he did that. So it's very unlikely that without a twist, like Tony's talking about, meaning they could turn him, that they're just like, "Oh, you're cool." Because you're about 13 dudes in the belly too much to be cool at that point. You get what I mean? Like somebody's killing your ass. So it's
He
like
absolutely made a deal.
And they were fighting him in the door. So they just weren't fighting him in the door. They'd be like, "Okay, now that we're in here, let's sit down and talk business." So like they were fighting. So I believe like Tony's the only thing that makes sense that they bagged him up and they said, "You'll be our snitch now." And now,
The best thing to make somebody believe that they're on your side is to show this person trying to save your life or fighting for you, and that's the last image they have of him. Now all of a sudden he's a hero to them. So when he comes back, they just, "Oh my God, you're even bigger than we thought. You survived that whole situation," without actually thinking about how the fuck did you survive this?
How
And
would
he don't want
somebody
to
like
talk
him
about it
do
because
that?
they ain't nothing to talk about because he knows.
Hi,
how we
Luna.
survived.
Tony,
Hello
I
there.
actually, because Buntaro's face looks all buggered up too, right? Like it looked like they kicked the shit out of him.
Yeah, they definitely. Because
Absolutely.
Heidi, he stabbed like 13 dudes in the stomach just at that port. Like that's a lot of dudes to kill. One of them is going to be a brother or cousin. You're getting your ass kicked. Also, Justin always
Yeah.
faces that. That's why Tyrion uses that to his advantage in Game of Thrones. We should probably talk about this soon. Like, yeah, you do pay. Like, it's worth more money to ransom me. So you're either going to get paid fiscally or you're going to get paid in information. I believe there's no. I mean, come on. They're literally fight. It's not like he got up there and it was handshakes. They were fighting him into the house. So he must have been submitted at some point.
I actually like regarding Buntaro. I think there's this real bitterness about him, right? And I think there must be some backstory that maybe we are not privy to yet about him. I haven't read the book, so
What, like people left 13 feet away from him on a boat and didn't help him, like that type of bitterness. Like
no, he was bitter before that.
Yeah,
He
because
hates
he has every reason to turn now.
Yeah, no. I mean, obviously he was bitter before that, like with his
Yeah.
son. He's a horrible father, horrible husband. Maybe because, like, because Mariko is disgraced.
Yeah,
He is forced to marry her. He's probably pissed. He was probably pissed at being forced to marry her.
It doesn't matter. It's just like they said, like one guy said, like Chris Rock said.
Yeah.
If Beyonce worked in Burger King, she could still marry Jay-Z. No matter
Easily.
disgrace. She looking the way she looking, no matter how disgraced she is.
Which is why even
Don't
more
look at
so,
him.
I don't understand. You literally have a flyest chick in the village right now. You're upset that
Can we get over
she
the
has a
look, though?
great
She's damaged.
job.
She's got a career though. He doesn't like a career woman.
She's
That's what I was
damaged too.
getting
We
to.
cannot present her. Sorry, like there's damage there.
She would be damaged if she was my
She's
woman.
in his eyes, I'm sure that she's considered very damaged.
That's all I'm saying. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, her bloodline and everything. Go ahead, Alicia.
Her bloodline, yes, but he has also failed within himself to come up in any way, shape, or form. He can't blame anyone else. Obviously, I think he's a narcissist. He can't blame himself. So the only person he can take that anger out on is his wife, and he constantly gaslights her with the past, and what happened is tainted to them. But knowing what the actual truth is, her dad actually did everybody a favor, and that's basically it. And he condemned his whole family with that favor, sadly. So now she has to pick up the pieces of that. And even though she has asked multiple times to take care of that disgrace, he's so mad about himself that he will not let her die. Literally, he orders her to stay alive. And again, it's Tiny Peen energy, because he's just this soldier. He wants more out of life. He can't get it on his own anyway. The most importance he has is because of her and the marriage. And granted, yeah, he was forced into it, but it still is something that elevates him to take that on. And he has his dad's fame. That's pretty much it. And he,
by the way, when they were describing Jamie, or sorry, when they were describing her father, I was like, he sounded kind of like Jamie Lannister, you know, like he's like the Kingslayer. Like I keep getting, you know, Tony, I don't know if you thought any of this, but there's been some things that I'm like, oh, I kind of feel like this is a little bit Game of Thrones. There's a little bit happening there. Did you feel any synergy between Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, this lead dude is a Tywin Lannister-ish thinker. When it comes down to a little Stannis Baratheon, he's always trying to think one step ahead. He's playing the game. And again, Game of Thrones is the most popular television show of all time. So everyone's always wondered what's the next Game of Thrones, what's going to be the next Game of Thrones. So, you know, everyone thought a two body count or whatever garbage was going to be something like that too, you know, but two body or whatever it's called, the three body
problem.
Power.
I don't know that it's going to be the next Game of Thrones because it's not even in the same genre.
I don't know that you can have a next Game of Thrones.
What if we could put another body on top of it?
Not supposed to be in the same genre.
No,
I would have made it a 4
what
body
Tony is saying is that everybody talks about everything. It's like the Ross show is going to be the next Game of Thrones. They throw that around a lot. Yeah, they throw that around.
That I was getting to is it's not really.
Oh no, we haven't seen it.
Thrones. The whole story was out long before Game of Thrones.
I still understand.
They're not using the blueprint of Game of Thrones. They're using the blueprint of something that came long before that.
Well, what I'm saying, the way they present it is Game of Thrones-ish. Like they may have that book, but after watching the show Game of Thrones, then
they have the
way to present it on screen. You're like, all right, now we know what worked on screen for this show. How can we do this for this show and present it the same exact way so people are into it? And I think that's the problem with other shows have, but I think they're doing a really good job with it. You know, I love the show. I think what I'm saying, don't think I don't like the show. I love the show. I'll never miss an episode.
Because there's marketing and then there's the show. So the marketing
I was saying in the very first, like when we did the very first live stream and I asked Alicia and Justin this question, because I said, George probably read Shogun. He probably read Taipan. Like it's called the Asian Saga. And it was
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, it was released in 1980 or what have you. And a lot of the stuff, like you could take a lot of the, you know, the feudal Japan and lay it on top of an English or medieval, you know, sort of civilization. They're not that different. Like, you know, it's Jack and I were talking about this, like, even though you have these two civilizations that have grown alongside of each other and have never encountered one another, they're going to eventually encounter some similar things, right? Like, so, like their systems that they have in place. So that's why I wonder, because like I know George was inspired, obviously, by Tolkien. But also, you know, medieval history. And so then I thought it would have been, because, you know, we know, like, for instance, George Lucas was inspired by Kurosawa. So I just was wondering if maybe you thought that George might have taken any inspiration from.
One of George's popular things that I remember him saying in an interview was that if you take from one person, it's called plagiarism. If you take from multiple people, it's called research. And he said, I do a lot of research. So that itself.
and Shogun, the book, and the already live miniseries that came first.
Well, that's what I was saying. I put this quote out the other day about Dan O'Bannon, who wrote Alien, and he said, I didn't steal from one particular person. I stole from everyone. So when he wrote Alien, so I think a lot of, like, because there's been a lot of stuff we were, Justin and I have been talking about, like with Dune, where a lot of people are accusing George Lucas of stealing from Dune. And my argument is he didn't just steal from Dune. He stole from like everything.
and it's not stealing. It's you're on the shoulders
he's
of
liberating.
yeah, and it's this inspiration. It also so the marketing side of things, that's how like production works. You have a marketing side that will push that Game of Thrones narrative, is what I'm saying. The big it's the next Game of Thrones. George was definitely inspired by a lot of things. He was inspired by every story he ever wrote. This is a classic fish out of water story. This fish happens to be quite chivalric. But this is a classic fish out of water story. I'm sure I have not read the book, but I can't imagine somebody that was in a Japanese prison camp didn't have. I'm sure that book's a little bit racist, I would assume. Like, I mean, come on, I haven't read. Have you
One
read
of the things is I haven't read the book, but one of the things that I read about the book is that John, the main character, the protagonist, who's this English guy, apparently they're constantly talking about how big his penis is and how the Japanese women are just completely in awe of his very large appendage.
Well, they have played that up.
Who was
in the show?
In the book.
They played it up in the show. They have the guy stripping, and you could see
Yeah.
every time he's naked, the lady's eyes always go down.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? They always go right down to it, and they played that up. I mean, listen, man, I'm not saying it's impossible for that to happen. Obviously, it is possible and stuff. But if you wrote a book about yourself, you are going to be the hero, and everything about you is going to be special. You know, when I went to Japan, I had the biggest dick in the whole country. You don't think there's another big dick Japanese guy running around that? Come on, man.
He just wasn't there on that day. That's it.
June 31st. I went to see the doctor
at coastlines.
Yeah.
Big dicks.
Yeah.
All over.
And then Cosmo Jarvis, who is actually half Armenian,
pause on that.
Cosmo Jarvis, who plays John. Sorry, go ahead, Tony.
No, I'm just saying, I got to pause on that when people take it the wrong way. Not that I know that, but it's just like saying big titties or big ass don't just exist to one race. It's maybe more prominent in one race than another, but it does exist in other races.
It's like in Dune when he knows how to put the still suit on, but they also notice that he has a huge penis. Right? Like, because they're like, she's like, have you worn a still suit before? He's like, no. She's like, also, your penis is huge.
Have you seen his?
You must be Moa Deep.
It's
yeah,
massive.
whatever. Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, no, Tony's right though. Yeah,
it was funny. I was rewatching this part, and it's actually hilarious. Like, who was his name? The actor who plays Toranaga. He is
Sub-Zero.
Yes, Sub-Zero. He's on the boat, and then they're having he keeps making John dive into the water wearing that little loincloth.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because in the show, they show him leaning over kind of the edge of the boat and watching him as he's diving in. And some people I think it was actually Justin. I think it was, who's that creator that we were talking about last week? Who's really, really great. Who does show reviews, and he was saying
I almost call him Pete Peppers.
Pete Peppers, who was saying that it's almost like he was just like, hey, let's just make him do this over and over again, almost like a monkey. He's not really learning anything from him because obviously Toranaga knows how to dive, right? He knows how to swim and he knows how to dive. But it's kind of like it's sort of amusing. Like, hey, let's just make him go do this over and over again. In the sequin cloth.
It was a tire.
That little thing right there is kind of what I just made me remember what else I was going to say about the earthquake scene. When he fell into that hole, Blackthorn, he does get props for being the first one to jump in there. But also, it's not just him being brave. His meal ticket is in that hole. If he doesn't find him and doesn't bring him up, whatever plan he is trying to scheme is completely dead in the water and done because he will no longer be useful to anyone at that point in time. That's a very solid point,
Alicia. That's a
so
very solid point.
And it's also I'm giving him maybe 2.5 out of 5 butthole score. And I know the swords don't have the legend with them that has been given to him, but you really just took this very heartfelt gift from this woman that you just did a ridiculous wrong to, and you handed it over to your Lord. And I think Sub-Zero saw that, and he did pause for a second. And when he said thank you, at least to me, how I read the look on his face, I was like, "You fucking idiot! This is okay. Thank you. I appreciate it." And then he just dropped, and that was it.
He was first in the hole, but he also found him too. right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
No,
First of all,
and I
he's the
said
guy
that.
who
He
gets
found it.
down there and finds him. No one else can find him. But
I'm
him.
not taking that away from him,
Oh,
but he
May I
had
dare
to do those
interject?
things.
May I
That's
dare
all I'm adding
interject
in.
science
There's an
into this?
asterisk next to his name on that.
Yes, but let me interject science. His huge penis size with the inertia drove him to be first to the ground. That is proven science. So it was
You're
because
right,
of that.
Natural.
Thank
you.
Are you saying that his penis is kind of like a what is that? A tuning fork for water?
Yeah, like
And
a like
it
diviner.
vibrates
A
and
divine
heads
rod.
Is that what his
Yes.
is that what his superpower is now?
Yeah, it has its own orbit. But we do
I
have
have to
food.
say, okay, personally speaking, I felt like that scene wasn't necessarily to show us like John's like bravery or anything like that. I feel like that scene was to show John um that life, like maybe life is precious, like there, I don't know, like because he immediately went back home to Fuji and found her, like, she had been injured and everything. And then he went back into the garden with the rock and like was doing the whole thing with it in the garden. Probably she could see it. I just felt that was it because originally he wanted to like leave. I'm going, I'm done, I'm out of here. Please let me go. And then immediately I felt like that was to teach him. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
he absolutely had to learn that lesson. Again, that this was like the culmination of all that. Mariko dropped that line to him in the beginning. Here we know only two things for sure is that we live and that we die. And that's it. And death is literally in the air and earth around us. And this is the most realist time it's been for him now to view that. So I think all that needed to happen.
I also think he understands the power of a story here because Toranaga takes those swords, which I think it's a little bit disrespectful to Fuji that like nobody told her. They're like, oh yeah, your grandpa's a joke, or your father or whatever. Like that's a little bit fucked up.
Yeah,
use my language. That's not like honoring somebody. That's like I would be pissed.
I don't know if they were doing that because they didn't want her to be embarrassed.
That's what it comes off as.
That's what I think is that they're covering up from her
to
keep so she keeps a bit of dignity. I think.
So,
but I have to say that was the one time when Mariko said something. I mean, because that happened like after she was beaten, though, right? Or when did she say that? Yeah. So she's obviously in a situation where she's going through some trauma, and so I was like, well, we can't like take what she's saying at that moment too seriously, but it was like the most mean-spirited she had been, I think, at that until to that point, because she's always very reserved behind her eightfold.
Yeah, she was you're right. That was the one time we saw her. Well, there's been a few times, but one of the few times we've seen her be emotional and letting her emotions dictate what she says. She's usually her heart is separate. Remember, she said that at the beginning. But with the earthquake, so there's this like constant fear that we could all die. Like they're all living on a razor's edge in this community, supposedly, from what we've seen. Also, it's the power of the swords. It's the power of the story. He knows those swords are bullshit, right? He can get other swords.
Yeah.
But that act, and now they will make a legend out of that, right? The man with the huge penis jumped down and gave him those swords. And like there'll be a story out of it. They'll not probably mark down the penis part in the Japanese version, but you get what I mean. Like there's making things powerful. There's making things iconic. There's making relics. There's making symbols. There's creating power out of thin air. And that's what Toranaga is doing. He's like, fuck, I lost my swords. He's like, here's some swords. He's like, oh, I'll make this dumbass barbarian give me some swords and it'll look great. Like he's making a story out of it. You know what I mean? Like he's making himself great.
Chiron is saying they have to play up how unwashed he is in this show. Oh, sorry. No, sorry. Who was saying? They I thought
the country
highlight his tallness in the show, though. They make they more like mask it. There was one scene in this episode where John is standing with Mariko, and I'm like, oh my god, she's so tiny, but he's tall. And my husband, because he's watching her on another show, and what was that other show called, you guys?
I don't know.
That Mariko's on
in real life.
Mariko, the actress, she's in a show about Godzilla, Monarch, yes. And my husband said, no, she is really tiny. Like I don't know how little she is, but John, the actor who plays John, he is tall, and definitely by like their standards, he would be which is probably bullshit because I don't know that an Englishman would have been any taller than a Japanese person.
Yeah, there would have been a slight.
I think there's been that's been studied. I'm pretty sure they found that was the case back then, and we see even with what's his name, Rodriguez. He also is smaller in stature compared to Blackthorn. So I think that was actually a legit
would they
thing.
have not seen tall Portuguese men? Also,
Portuguese have more of the Latin roots, so you do have Romans.
Yes,
who are
Godzilla
shorter.
is tall.
So okay,
sure.
so the Europeans, the Celts, pretty much, because remember Caesar just ran through Europe. So like you have the Romans that were shorter, like I believe it was 5'8" was their average height, and then you have Europeans, like we're talking like a little bit higher, like and all that. So yeah, like Portuguese would have been more Eastern with their height. They would have been probably slightly shorter than an Englishman.
Silver scale, it's not because like I actually, well, I don't know. I guess it depends on the person, but I was going to say is I was never really fixated on height. I always actually liked men who were a little bit shorter.
They do this in every series. Every woman looks the same height as they do this in television. They do this in film.
There's been a lot of criticism of the actor who plays Aegon, who in real life, IRL, is actually like 5'10", which is pretty average for a male.
That's huge in Hollywood.
I guess compared to, let's say, other Hollywood men, he, 6'2", 6'3" is more like the standard height, maybe. So he looks shorter. But really, he's pretty average, and I don't understand why people are making fun of that.
I think the problem with Aegon is that when they showed him in the first season, he doesn't look like the guy.
He doesn't look like Doctor Who's son. Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't look like the first season. Aegon was jerking off in the window. He was this tall dude and everything else with long hair. And then all of a sudden, now his brother is 10 times, and his brother was much shorter than him then. And then in next season, his brother's 10 times taller than him, and he's shrunk.
Yeah, they should have switched those actors. They should have had the guy who played Aegon.
I see what you're saying. There was like a continuity error.
They did too many time jumps. They could have done those time jumps and kept the same actors. They didn't need
I like
those
the actor who's playing
those.
Aegon. I think it's kind of a cutie.
Yeah, but Tony's right, because that guy looked a lot more like his brother than he looks like Aegon.
But in soap operas, I don't know if you guys ever watched this.
No, I know. They're okay. You're going to be in a show for an episode.
In soap operas, they oftentimes would swap out actors, and they would do that when they wanted to change the direction of the character.
Yeah.
So I think like that in a way. I mean, obviously they have to age him up, but also there's a shift in the character.
There's a huge negative though for House of the Dragon doing that.
It's just like jerking off out the window, which by the way, I have to say, I never really thought that was that bad. I know, Alicia, you thought that was terrible. I personally didn't think
I thought it was hilarious.
I think they took it from Homelander. That's the whole thing. Like, I think
did they really?
Yeah. That's what it seemed like.
I love Homelander.
It seemed like
he's into the mother's milk and all that, right?
Yeah, that's
because he's a creep.
You can go and watch Phil the Issues guy. I don't know if they may have banned his video because it was getting so many. But
oh dear.
He had a video called "Who Jerked It Better," and he combined them both at the same time.
Yeah,
and doing the same.
Oh my god, that's so
funny.
Leave
it to Phil.
I personally don't think that's that bad. I'm like, he's in the privacy of his bedroom. He's jerking off. Okay,
his mom was too comfortable with it.
And you have to remember back then they didn't have glasses on the window. It was just like an open window.
But how do you? Glass is not the only thing stopping me from jerking off on windows. To be clear, that's not the excuse. Oh, there isn't glass. So that's not. I don't go up and feel the barrier. I'm like, I can't do this because there's glass. No.
Anyway, so. Do you think so? Why do you think that they decided to, again, I think it's in the book, they probably had like, John is much taller than all of the Japanese because he's British and he has a bigger wang or whatever you want to call it. Schlong. Allegedly. And all the, the Asian men, they have small penises or something. They probably make this horrible stereotype.
Because you can't have a guy that's 4 inches taller than another guy and then say on screen he's intimidated of him. So that's why Tom Cruise is the same height as Henry Cavill, and Henry Cavill is the same size. Like 6 foot in Hollywood is tall, to be clear. It's just big shoulders and big head.
Allison she didn't seem surprised. I guess this is a regular occurrence.
Yeah. Did y'all not peep that she was standing there in the doorway watching while he finished? It's
Yeah.
something.
Oh my God.
Something's wrong with
She had to go
Allison.
do a foot cam show in the next room, so she's got her own kink.
Yes,
But
it is
anyways,
different.
so it is what it is. They're not, because that takes it puts people on equal standing, because the optics of storytelling are slim, and we're very perceptive people, meaning we look at people that are taller, we think, oh, they're bigger, they're stronger, and so they avoid that for storytelling reasons. They don't want you to look like you're a giant above these people. Like, it's just, I don't know, it kind of evens the road. Is it realistic? No, but storytelling is a slim glass that we're seeing this through. So yeah, and because a shorter guy can fuck a taller guy up, to be clear, but a lot of people don't see it that way. So like that's why they got the apple carts.
The shorter men, they try harder.
Well, they got the they got the lower gravity.
I would say when it comes to men, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to men, doesn't matter what culture you're at, any race you're at, or anything. Penis size matters more to man than man to woman. Like, that shows that to another man that just because your dick is bigger, you're a better man than him, right? That is the reason why black men, if you have had their dicks cut off and put in pickle jars and put on display by people in the United States, right? Because of the size of because that was showed that, hey, I'm better than you because my dick is bigger than yours. White men got mad about it and said, yo, I'll chop your dick off and I'll put it in the pickle jar and put it on display. And it didn't just happen once. It happened multiple times. So that is just a way to prove to men that, man, I'm more man than you because my dick is bigger than yours.
Thanks for that example, Tony. Thank you for that.
I'm just saying it's the truth.
Appreciate that one.
Natural saying woman here, punishment size matters.
Yeah. Well, I guess what Tony's saying is, like, a woman says, I'm not wearing it for you, I'm wearing it for me. It's like,
women do sometimes. I would say that women, when it comes to breast size, would say, I'm more woman than you because I had bigger boobs than you at a certain time when big boobs were the rage. You know what I mean? When big boobs were the thing, that's why it's the reason why they have breast implants, right? And why that was so popular, because those women were considered more attractive. And I knew a lot of women, like, there's a picture of Jane Mansfield and this other woman. I can't remember the Spanish picture, but you could see her there with her big breasts. The other woman just looking at her, like, looking right at her, like, you and your big ass titties. You know what I mean? It symbolized more of a womanhood, like breasts did. Boobs are not
really,
wide hips as well. Wide hips were
that's about childbearing.
And
if I see a Japanese woman
hips,
with a BBL,
thick thighs.
Yeah, no, it's all a big old thing.
If I see a Japanese woman with a Brazilian butt lift in this show, then I'm done watching. I'm not watching anymore. They better just keep it the way it is.
Before we finish up, I was just gonna say, do you want to just talk quickly about the House of the Dragon trailers? Just a quick reaction. Alicia hasn't watched them, but what do you, or the pictures or what have you? Like, the show's coming out in June apparently, and a lot of people are really excited about it. Like, do you have any thoughts on it? Anybody?
I think that they did it differently this time. They did 2 trailers, and they're just stressing to pick a side, whether it's the greens or the blacks. And it's unique that they've done that. You haven't really done that in any show. You haven't really seen that. But it's all about George R. R. Martin, the way he writes his characters, where you can, if you pick the side, you can find an argument for your side, right? Both sides have an argument. Both sides have a claim. And I like the way they did it. But I thought it was going to be a full trailer, but they're really just 2 teaser trailers.
Yeah, totally. So if anybody hasn't seen the trailers, I put them in the description below. But what they did was they had one main trailer and then said, I was kind of surprised by it. I was kind of like all morning, I'm like, okay, I'm going to check to see if there's a new trailer. And then there's this trailer and I'm watching and I'm like, what is this? Like, what's happening? And they say, you need to choose. And then I'm like, oh, there's 2 different trailers. And I'm kind of the, there's, it's funny because at one point I referred to Kristen Cole as Krispy Kreme. I think it was Alicia it was Tatiana who came up with that name. And I called him Krispy Kreme on social media and people were like, how dare you call him that? And I'm like, even if you were the Greens, like, why would you defend that guy? That guy's an asshole.
You must number one, he should have smashed Damon's face. Number 2, I'm not a green person. They're both terrible. I think that
Yeah.
this is smart. Number one, people that make trailers are trailer houses. It's a marketing team, and it's
Sure.
smart. Game of Thrones did very well because there was a little bit of this Team Edward, Team Jacob type of deal with I'm Team Stark, I'm Team Lannister. People did pick allegiances. It's like sports teams. Optics for this are good. This is good marketing. The trailers didn't show us too much. I'm glad I don't make content anymore for myself because I really do get sick of the blind Targaryen love. And like the greens are terrible too. And I just find it really weird that nobody finds like Alicent to like be what you call, to have empathy for her, meaning you understand that she did, like, just like Sansa as a character, everybody loved Arya because she didn't play by the rules. She had less responsibility. She didn't have to do anything. She had no realistic goals to get out of anything. Magic and a bunch of guy bodyguards saved Arya. But Sansa had to go through the ringer and actually make changes. People tend to hate those type of characters. They don't like Alicent. What was Alicent supposed to do? I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I'm just
it's
posing
kind of like Sky in Breaking Bad. Like everyone hated on Sky and never really got it.
Yeah.
So Tony, have you had a chance to watch the trailers?
I have. I have. I'm sorry. You have something else to say?
No, go ahead.
No, let me firmly say this to everyone watching. So I'm firmly a supporter of the Greens. I'm with.
Thank you. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Firmly
of the Greens.
Always been, always has been, and I still will be.
Really?
Always with the Greens. I can give you 1,000 reasons why the blacks are wrong and they don't deserve to be on the Iron Throne. It's their fault for this whole battle and everything else. It's pretty obvious, but I just think that people look at everything at a sub level of this is what they wanted and this is what it is, and they like Daemon so much, like he's this great character. Daemon's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
but people like him so much, and so they overlook the fact that he beat his wife in the head with a rock. He overlooked the fact that he groomed his niece.
We didn't overlook that.
He groomed his niece in order to marry her so he can get. They overlook these things in order to justify being a part of the black society and all that.
This is residual Targaryen love is what we see happening.
And he did a chokehold on Rhaenyra as well. Remember?
Oh, really quick too. Like, so what we're talking about here. So I think her kids are shit, but everybody, you should understand that Alicent. Why would she have any other reason but to believe she has done everything she's had to do, and she's trying to make the best of it. She believes, King Viserys, to be honest in his plea to her. So like, I'm not saying they're both right in a sense, but like for people to look, people always call her like an evil Cersei character. For her, she loves her kids and she's done what she had to do. Sorry, guess what? Rhaenyra still like, oh well, she shouldn't have married the king like her dad did. Rhaenyra had way more agency and power. Still married somebody she didn't want to marry. By the way, you know what I mean? Was still controlled. And there's just this weird narrative. I think it's just residual Dany love that gets transferred onto all Targaryens. Daemon is a bitch. I'm sorry for saying it, but Criston Cole is not a cool guy, but he whooped his ass. And if it wasn't for his dragon, he would have killed him. Like, he should have killed him in the first place. That's a really good narrative on like physical strength and fighting. The only reason Daemon has upper hand on Criston Cole is because he has a dragon. He's got magic.
And he's got Dark Sister. Which
fuck that. He whooped him, dude. Like, it's just like people they act like Christian. You can say Criston Cole is an asshole. You can say he's lame. Do not call him weak because he's not.
Yeah, Dark Sister. Fuck Dark Sister.
No, Daemon's weak.
These swords they have. These swords, just because it's got a name to it, people think that the person attached to it all of a sudden can fight so well. But you should have learned that from the Bracken Blackwood fight that we seen last season, when you seen the guy who didn't look like he could fight chopped him down with the quickness, because looks can be deceiving. It ain't about what you're holding in your hand. It's about the skill level that you present. And that goes back into this situation where we were talking about a little bit about this Japanese and show and everything.
Yeah,
it's just like and Blackthorn and everything else. Listen, there's a lot of people who have gotten hurt this way, whether you've gone to a different neighborhood or just say like an American go to, because Carla Way was say Australia, and you think, oh, I'm from New York, I'm from here, motherfuckers ain't fucking with me in this country. You get your ass handed to you. Going in there with that attitude, you get broke the fuck down going over there. There's a guy in New York City right now who just got shot in the head by a Mexican dude in the subway, and it was his gun, and the Mexican dude took it from him and shot him because and you can look at the video, he thought because I'm black and
took him forever to get his gun out.
In this guy's face and say what he want. You don't know who you dealing
with. He fucked around and found out.
Yeah, and that's what happened. So that's why I think that when Blackthorn does this, it's just anyone with any self-preservation know better not to do it. You know, everyone, especially in the life or death situation that this cat's in, he should know better than to run his mouth about it. And just to say that, oh, I have to defend these women because I don't care about my own life or the life of my men. When that's the first thing he always talks about, the life of his men. To throw that all out, it just seems like a trope. I'm sorry about that. But back to House of the Dragon. I'll go back over to that. So, yeah, I just, listen, the blacks, people can side with them all they want. You can have your rationalities for it. I'm not trying to deny them. But in all honesty, the Greens have the right to the Iron Throne, and this battle, and this should have never taken place.
You know, you can always try to fix the ending of Game of Thrones, meaning giving Dany her due, you can't fix a broken arm by fixing the knee. It's not the same thing. This love that is driven over to the other side. I think I'm not agreeing completely with Tony here. They both have their perspectives, and that's the greatness of the story. But Christian Cole, last thing on him, and he is a bitch, to be clear. Like, he's a bitch. He's a weird dude.
He's kind of a dick.
But he came from nothing, and he fought hard, and he made his bones the right way. He did it the right way. And Daemon is a privileged little shit who beat the life out of a guy that came bringing news that he was getting help, because he's just fucking self-absorbed and all that. Daemon is a weird dude.
Mm-hmm. Who, like, Kristen, you think is pretty?
Yeah, no,
everybody thinks he's pretty.
Yeah, I've never seen so much green love. I'll just end it there. I'm happy that Tony likes green. I see none of it. All I see is all this fucking Targaryen like support, like, which is fine. Like, I like Dany, but like, Dany is not her ancestor. She actually goes through quite a few loops to not be them. And then the complaint about Dany is that she becomes them, by the way. So your support of Rhaenyra is not really all that logical when you sync it up with the rest. That's all I'm saying.
She was the named heir.
Won me over on some of what you've said. I'm kind of like, I'm probably going to still stay hashtag neutral on this.
Yeah, that's a smart way. They both have their points.
I just think it's just because I'm very anti-war, and I think it's just ridiculous. That...
And I would say, I know I heard AK, and I'm not trying to argue with you, AK. You know, sure, we can always go back and forth. There's no problem with that. But I know AK said she was a named heir. That's what it was. Yeah. Again, let's look at the history of Game of Thrones let's look at Game of Thrones. Robert Baratheon named Joffrey the heir, right? And the Honorable Ned Stark changed his will. Mm-hmm. Right? Robert said to him, "You're going to rule until my son Joffrey comes of age." And the honorable, the man known for the most part, changed his best friend's will to not suit his words because he felt like it was better. So in essence, when Cersei ripped the will up, she had every right to, because that truly was not the king's words that he professed that this is the king's words, but you're lying. That wasn't the king's words. You put yourself out there like that. So Cersei had every right to rip up the fake shit that you put up in there.
That is Cersei.
So when we look at the progression, yes, the king named her, but he didn't take any steps to make it law. And that's what it comes down to. You have to you can say one thing, but the law is the law. You have to change the law in order to do it. So I would say
not in that land, they don't.
Any president can say something that I'm against this. I'm against lynching. But until lynching becomes the anti-lynching law, which got shut down, it's not in law. It doesn't matter what you think until it becomes law. So I just think that Viserys should have changed the law.
Nothing to do with it.
Yeah, he should have changed the law saying that women can inherit the throne no matter what. It's done. It's over.
It's a segue back into Shogun too. What we're talking about, Tony's talking about, is that it's convenient to Ned tried the still play, just like Toranaga has left the council, right, Tony? Like he's left. Like so no, she'll be back. So you've lost Toranaga, right? Because he disagreed with the law. So there's two ways to approach it, like you're talking about. It's very convenient to support the king who he names when it's legitimate to you, right? But
Mhm.
then as soon as it's not, then you can either work within that system or you can do what Toranaga has and step out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and say that, Rhaenyra thinks that she is also, because she's also the named heir, to be fair. So they both have the same promise to them. The one was public. So it's like they both have their reasons. I don't think that I would argue either way. I think that they both think they're doing the right thing, and they both kind of are doing the right thing in their eyes, but they're not stepping aside and thinking what's best for the people. Rhaenyra does in defense, and I'm so happy there's finally some green people. Rhaenyra at the end of the season, in the books, does think about stepping away, right? For a minute, for a goddamn minute, she thinks about it, right? She's like, that would be best. No civil war. But then pride takes, and I'm not blaming her, but we're talking about what is law and what is practice, right, Tony? That's what you're talking about.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
You can say it. He can go there and say, I want y'all to kneel for my daughter, and I want you to, when she, this is how he knew there would be a problem and he should have fixed it.
Yeah.
The fact that he went to them and told them, when I die, I need y'all to step up and defend my daughter's right to take the throne. He knew there was going to be issues.
Yeah.
So why not change the law of Westeros right then and just say, I am now enacting that women can inherit the throne. Now it's law. It's law across the land. You don't have to ask them to stand by their words. This is law, and if you don't do it, you're breaking the law. And that's what he should have did. He should have changed the law, not ask people, hey, follow me when I'm dead and make sure you let my daughter on the throne. People, alliances, and everything's going to change. He should have made it a law.
Law versus tradition, right? Because tradition was a man takes it, and this was even when Nurina was there. He knew that he was the king. This is the great aspect of this, a story that is now being a story rather than events that have been depicted in Fire of Blood. Like I've spoke about a billion times before, Titanic is a story. You know what I mean? Like the sinking of it is an event. We know what's going to happen at the end of this. It's a still enticing story. We've seen how his words have been twisted. We see tradition versus law, like you spoke about. We see why both people are motivated to do what they've done, and I think it's very interesting. I think that Rhaenyra has every reason to believe that she should be the one sitting on that throne, to be fair. But so does Alicent. You could question Alicent's behavior of taking the word of a loose, barely lucid man, but at the same time, Alicent is just always done what she thinks is demanded of her. And so the king told her something and she did it. So they both have a right to it. Neither of them are willing to step aside because they know if they step aside, they're going to get their whole family axed.
And I just
The
think
king didn't tell her anything.
One sec, I'll AK one sec. Lewis said that when she said something here that that whatever a king says is law because he said it. That's not the case because he's asking them. You could listen to him when he brings them in there. He's like, I'm asking you
to pledge to her,
to pledge to my daughter so that she can become the queen when it's all said and done. He's not telling them. If it's law, this is the law. This is my daughter. And now a woman can succeed and become on the throne. It doesn't have anything to do with race. It's the firstborn, no matter of race, no matter of your gender. It's over. Yeah. You don't have to pledge to him. This is the law of the land. And he should have put it in law instead of trying to trust people that they would do what he considered to be the right thing.
Yeah, break tradition and all
how
that.
Would how would that get any type of different thing if they want to put someone that isn't supposed to be on the throne? They're going to follow the exact same things that they did.
Well, they
everyone,
have
I just want to show
law changes nothing. It's a monarchy.
I just want to thank Luna for the super chat. She says, Shogun, I felt sorry for the death of the gardener. What's the most important lesson is that in feudal Japan, choose your words carefully. Think before you speak. Words have literal power of life and death.
Yeah, because evidently
Thanks
in Japan,
Luna.
Evidently, thank you, Luna. In Japan, if you say I'd kill somebody for a coffee, somebody's getting their head cut off. There's no nuance, evidently, whatsoever, and there's no, I don't know, sarcastic birds, but whatever. It is a truth to him handling his power because this is a transition of this man. In history, this man never leaves Japan. I will say that. this is history. It doesn't mean it's what's going to happen in the show. So he is slowly going through the process of trying to get his men back. Remember how remember we were talking about, he's like, where's my men? Where's my boat? Right? Like, so they're slowly training him per se. They're slowly conditioning him. So like his words have power. He's becoming important because he lies when he talks about the night out. He says, oh, we'll go meet the queen. He ain't doing any of that shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So like he's a person of prominence here, and they are showing him that in the most harshest of ways.
No doubt. Will you put natural selections comment on the board, the council of 101 right there? Because that shows it right then. The council, because number one, Viserys should never been king, right? We know that. It should have went to Rhaenys, right?
Yes.
But it just showed right then how people thought about it. And he knew how he became king, and he shouldn't have been. So he should have took precedence then and said, if I'm going to spare my daughter what happened to Rhaenys, I have to make it law of the land.
Yes.
That this can't be. It's like the king's first right? To that he can go around and betting any woman that he wanted to do when someone got married. And then the wife said,
apparently that's not actually true.
Well,
that's not, at least in Scotland.
That was the law in Westeros until the wife was like, this shit's going to stop. And then it became law of the land that he didn't have the power to do that. Now he can't do that anymore.
Well, let's put this in terms that we can understand. Custom is that when you're 16 in most American families, you can have a beer, right, Tony?
Yeah.
At least 18. But the law is 21. So what Tony's talking about is taking tradition and custom, because tradition and custom is not letting a woman take the throne there. He needed to change the law because he's not Nixon. It's not illegal when the president does it. You need to change the law. You need to change it so you can assure that. You can't count on people's goodwill. Being a nice guy doesn't get you in. That's Viserys' biggest downfall, is being a nice fucking dude. That's a bad leader. Nice guy.
I personally didn't think he was a nice guy.
Well, he was indecisive, and he wasn't going to force his hand on anybody. So he just didn't do anybody favors by leaving.
He's wishy-washy.
But I guess it'll be all right when I die.
If they make this law, and it's again, we end up at square one, and she's the heir. What stops them from breaking that law and again trying to put Aegon on the throne? The story still plays out the same way. They ignore what the facts are, and they put who they want on the throne, and we get this war.
Because this leaves a leeway, Alicia. This leaves leeway for them to say it's not the law. That's what Tony's saying. It leaves a loophole, because it's harder for people to say, I'm breaking a law. That's what now we're not. Oh, of course, you're right, Alicia. Anybody can say, fuck that, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do what I think is right. But it's a little bit harder when you actually have to break the law of the land. So there's a loophole here where people can lie to themselves and lie to others and say, I'm not a usurper. I'm not breaking the law. This is the law of the land. The male should be it. And this is that. You don't give people leeway.
And when you have respect, if this king was as light as it seemed that he was, and this is the law that he put in effect before he died, a lot more people would have respected the law. So even if they tried it, a lot more people would be like, no, you're breaking the law. And they would have had legal ground to stand on in order to push them back, and they would not have gotten the support that they have gotten. Because the bottom line is this: there's a reason why each house went from lord to lord to get their support, right? They went there because they knew, we need support of the Baratheons, we need the support of the Starks, we need the support. You shouldn't need those support. If there's the law in the land, now you're breaking the law also. So now you can be tried for treason and everything else because you've broken the law. And so can you. And a lot of people think different when they're breaking the law. A lot of people are like, you know what? This is he made this law before he died. This is what he wanted. We're gonna keep it going just the way he wanted. It just gave the Greens at that time, if you want to look at it, a chance to enforce to say, hey, this is what he really wanted.
Viserys essentially asked everybody for a pinky promise, right, Tony? He asked everybody for a pinky promise to support my daughter. And it's easier when you have a military. Also, military justify their actions by being blindly acting out the duties of the law. So it's easy for them to do because they're not this isn't a judgment call for them. They're doing their duty. When it's a duty to follow something, it's easier for them to carry through. So but I do agree with Alicia that it's not just going to alleviate any of this. Like, there's still going to be this bullshit for sure, but there would be less. There'd be less of a chance of it because writing something down on that fucking paper is worth something. You know what I mean? It's worth more than pinky promise. Come and, like Tony said, come and tell me that you'll support my daughter. No, you don't have to do that for a king. You have to come and say you're going to support the king. No, you support the king or you get your head cut off. When you start asking people to do things and you're a king, you fucked up. And he fucked up.
Just think of it like this.
He used the wording that needed to be used just to make it sound pretty. That was it. He was still giving the order to follow his heir.
He didn't make it into law. You have to make it into law. You have to make it. It's like I said, he could, until it's law and it's declared, and he's asking for their support. He's not telling them. A law is telling these people, this is the law of the land. This is what it's going to be. Again, if he said, the Iron Islands, like Daenerys, when she came in, she's like, that Revan shit is over. It's over. This is going to be the new, and she's like, this is our way of life, Arthur says to her. And she goes, that shit is over. This is going to be the new law of the land, that Reaving is over. And she said, all right. Because even though that was her culture, that was her way of life, that's how all the Iron Islands, now it's the law against, you can't reave, it's done. It's over, and if you go against it, you're going to.
Reaving is very different from succession.
But if you look at the king makes something law, so now we're looking at the king said that Rhaenyra should be queen, right? But the king is only the king because of law. Are you following me? So we're not following once that king dies. I know, but we're talking about law. So he's only king because of law, and the law that followed was he skipped his sister, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So we're following the rule of king or the rule of law? The rule of law. So that's why you create problems like this, because you become lesser once you're dead, and it's only, well, what is the law? Because if this is true, then he shouldn't even been king. Then you're going to start this. It opens up a bag of worms. And again, but I do agree with Alicia saying that, like, it's not going to be easy peasy. This is good. He made it a law. It's still going to be a problem, but a lot less people are going to defend.
It gives Rhaenyra more ground to stand on. She has legal ground. Because right now, the Greens can cite a council, a great council of this is what happened, that the male always goes above the female. No matter what he says, they can cite that council. This takes that citing away. That's their whole justification. They always go back to that council. That's the reason why they showed that the first episode.
Yes.
That they always cite that council ruling. This takes away that council ruling.
When you're arguing for something to be illegal,
this is now the law of the land. That a woman, it's just the firstborn who inherits.
Tony, Natural's asking, do you really think that Aegon would have been a great king? Of course not.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying.
No, I know you're not.
I'm not the argument. He's a great king or anything. And he is the king. So they make a great king. He is a king. We've seen the type of king that he is. Yeah. So no, I'm not saying that. No, his brother would have been a better king than him. You know what I mean? But it's he has the right to claim that throne, and that's the bottom line. You know what do they say? Possession is 2/3 of the law.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's what it is. He's possessing as Otto said, he wears the conqueror's crown. He sits his throne. He has his sword. In everything you say, he's the king. I mean,
the crown is kind of ugly though in 3D print.
It is,
but the crown is only the king because of law. Again, this is what we're setting the president for. The law is what makes his word powerful. Not that he's king. So the law surpassed. Same thing that kid in Michigan that shot up that school, that idiot. His parents just went to jail because they got him that gun. So they had to use case law, and they had now that's established. There was nothing like this before. Now they've established case law. So now when the next time, if God forbid that happens, they can use it. They've established law. So but again, and it's not going to solve all the problems. It's George. He's interesting. It's an interesting thing.
Let me Jackie Steve just said, I can't understand people supporting her. I'm not supporting his claim and being that. Instead, Jackie, you are willing to support a man who beat his wife's head in with a brick to get out of a marriage. A man who groomed a child that was his niece in order to take advantage of her when she got older. You're willing to support a guy that everybody in the land, again, if you look at it, Otto did not care that Rhaenyra was going to inherit the throne. He was cool with it until she got with Damon. And when she got with Damon, he knew, and he said it, and he's right, that Damon would say to her, as long as our sons are there are going to be people that think because they're males, they deserve the throne. Damon's going to know that, and Damon's going to have them killed.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt, anyone want to be real about it, that if Rhaenyra took the throne, he would have put that bug in her ear, and they would have gotten killed. So they had no choice but to do what they had to do to secure their place on the throne, because Damon was just a wild card that she should have never got involved with. If she never did, it would have Otto would have gave her the throne. It was Damon. They didn't like Damon because of all the things that he had done and proven how bad he was. And that's
there is some historical precedence for this as well.
He didn't want her on the throne anyway. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Highlight Luna's comment here about Bobby B.
He wanted her on the throne when he knew he couldn't get it. When he knew he couldn't get the throne, he shifted his momentum to be the king through her. Right?
Yeah, he's like, I'll marry my niece. Easy.
And that was it. That's when he was wanting to go. He wanted it himself. But once he knew he couldn't get it, it was going to her. He was like, well, let me pack. Listen, I think he would have killed her eventually and took it himself. And to say that he wouldn't have is no one could say that he wouldn't have. From the actions we've seen from Damon, if she sat the throne and he was the king, I can easily see him killing her and taking the throne himself.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In fairness to Rhaenyra too, can we highlight really quick the comment about Bobby B as a usurper? So that hinders his authority as well. Now, so we had this in real life with the Tudor king, with Henry VII, who took it off of Richard in battle. So Bobby B did defeat Rhaegar. He did not defeat the king in battle, but he beat the prince. So there is a precedent for this, and he did acquire on the battlefield the crown, but this also gives that shaky ground for legal reasons. There were Targaryen loyalists in the books. There's a lot of them, actually. So like this is Bobby B did not have a solid reign because of that reason.
You 100%. And Varys's whole plot
Yes.
was to nurture the Targaryen loyalists that Bobby didn't deserve to be on the throne. And that's why he was like, I'm going to send the Dothraki over there to kill these guys. And then I'll have a Targaryen come wipe them up. And then he will be the savior. And it was just Varys's boys, Illyrio's son, but Blackfyre. But that was the plot. And that's the reason why they felt the plot would work, because Bobby did not deserve to be on the throne because of the way he took the throne.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, everybody wants to protect their kids. And that's something that we can all relate to. So like we do see in the series, I can speak for Rhaenyra here, okay? I'm not hating on the blacks completely, because Rhaenyra is the only one that stops for a minute and just thinks, right? What if I just let this shit go? What if I just but then she worries because of what you're talking about, Damon, everybody else, her kids, same reason Alicent is being so vindictive, because they know that it's do or die for their families, because they can't allow them to live because of this law.
Jackie, I'm not a black supporter. I'm neutral. Alicia, do you have anything to say on any of this?
I've said everything already. We're kind of just repeating ourselves and talking in circles. They're being ignored.
I'm sorry, but I'm not trying to annoy you, dog. I would never do that. Natural selection says it right here. Otto was scheming the whole time. He wanted Rhaenyra to marry Aegon. He was trying to find a solution. Yeah. And that was an amicable solution. If you have Rhaenyra marry Aegon, it's all over. It's a done deal. It's done. It's over. She marries him, done deal. But she didn't want to do that. Damon didn't want to do that. You know what I mean? It's over. It's done. I don't want to spoil the story for people who haven't seen it, but I think everyone's seen it. Basically, that's what happens, right? That's the solution. That's what it should have been right then, and everything else. You know what I mean?
You can't have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways, though. You can't have people be afraid of the law and conform according to the law and then ignore it for these things. This is what controls this is what controls the peasant. This is what controls them. They have a side in this as well. But again, I do agree with AK. I want to reiterate this, that it wouldn't just be fucking like roses.
Of course not.
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's not just right. Damon's fighting no matter what. You know what I
Well,
mean?
one of the things that David always talks about is that, one of the things we have to remember is that Rhaenyra's children are not Laenor's. They are actually, what's his name?
That's correct.
Yeah.
They're
They're
strong.
illegitimate. They're not legitimate children. So she
Her
has,
children have nothing to do with her being there.
yeah.
In this situation, that the kids wouldn't even factor in.
Well, it would because of Succession.
But her costumes are beautiful.
But I don't need a book about hair color.
It wouldn't. The Succession for them is not what's in play right now, though. That's why it doesn't matter.
If she doesn't have legitimate heirs, though, the heirs from Alicent are born from the king.
Yes.
So it does matter.
Were heirs taken into account when it comes to the
When
people
talking
that
about
are
the
going
stability
to
of the
be
monarchy,
on the
always
throne?
and always.
Well, that
It was
is
funny.
That is
I just-
exactly, real quick, Heidi. That is
Okay, never
exactly
mind.
that's exactly what Rhaenys,
Yeah.
when she had the council, used the why her legitimacy should be because she had an heir.
And
that
they
would-
decided
that-
to not
had an
use that
heir,
option.
And that's what she was using. If you listen to the council, she was saying, I have a son as an heir already that's legitimately born. He has Targaryen blood. He's going to take it over after me. And they still passed her by for a king who had no kids.
They rejected that. But that's what I'm saying. They
That's
rejected
true. She does
that
have two
whole law.
children.
That's why it doesn't factor
That's
in
true.
because
She does
they
have the two
abolished that
children.
already.
I do. It's funny. I was gonna. It's funny. Like
To be
Justin
clear,
and I have been-
George wants this to be the way it is. This argument is not against Alicia or against anybody in the chat. This argument is the fun of the story. Alicia, you agree to this. This is what it's about. It's about this argument.
Totally.
This is what it
Agreed.
is. If this wasn't, it is what it is.
Justin, I was going to say, okay, so one of the things that Justin and I have been talking about is like, it's so funny how all of this stuff is so connected. It's all connected. There's this sort of sci-fi series about Dune. And Justin was like, how do you have to watch this? And I'm like, okay. So I started watching it last night. It's like the sci-fi, what is it? Like the network, they decided to do like a 3-part series on Dune. Just
one of the first, one of the first examples of prestige TV. You don't mind? One of the first examples. This guy kind of paved the way. I don't remember his name. He was a white dude. And he, just some old guy. And he was like, I think that there's really a medium here for long form storytelling. Like, because Dune was always looked at as the non-adaptable, right? Like something that couldn't be on. So he said, hey, sci-fi is a good medium for this. Let's do this. And like, 'cause nobody really likes Fincher's Dune. So I'm not saying the series is good, but I would say it's
pretty good.
It's a good example. It's not bad. It's a good example of being faithful to the books and what that gets you. I think there's a lesson to be learned here. It's very faithful because Heidi got me the books. I've read the first book now. I've listened to it, and it's very faithful. It's actually very faithful for better or worse. Go ahead.
But why I'm bringing this up is because it kind of reminded me, like, so in Star Wars we have Luke, and then we have in this Paul Atreides, and then we have Rhaenyra, and it kind of we lost Tony, but it kind of reminded me of like there's a couple of scenes where Paul Atreides, he's like at a table, or he's just like, I'm out of here. Like I'm getting up, like an impetuous child. You know what I mean? And so it kind of reminded me of Luke Skywalker, obviously, but then it also kind of reminded me of Rhaenyra, a young Rhaenyra, where she was just like very impetuous, very like, I don't know, Justin.
Driven by emotion. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Driven by emotion.
They aged him up just like they did.
They did age him up.
But he still acts like a child. The only indication we get that of the Dune movie is you notice when he's getting off at Arrakis in Dune 1, Timothy Chalamet like prances over to that the Minyat or whatever. The guy, the spy. The guy, like Timothy Chalamet like runs like a little kid would, like when he's supposed to be marching.
Over to Duncan, Idaho?
No, it's not Duncan. It's that other guy. It's the guy that's a human computer, the Midnight or whatever.
The
Mentat.
Yes, thank you. So like he pronounces over to. They do that a lot in this Dune series. Like you're talking about.
He has no childlike friends. He has no peers. Everyone is like older for him.
Yeah, because he has to be protected.
Sequestered him, kind of thing.
It's great though. Did you like it though? So it's definitely better than the 84 movie. It's weird. It's a little bit weird. I think the eyes are bad, And then we see the blue eyes, which George
Mhm.
obviously took as well.
I love it. Like, I'm really, really enjoying it. The costumes are really whack, but like they were inspired by Moebius, who who did the Jodorowsky's Dune, and so it's really interesting. But I thought it was really. I just kept like when I was watching that, I'm like, this reminds me of Rhaenyra. She's just like she's kind of a brat,
Yeah.
She's kind of like a little fucker, and she's disrespectful to other to people who are obviously her elders, her the people around her, and so she doesn't really learn the court life and how to behave.
She doesn't
Like I
follow the
think
rules like Allison has to, right?
yeah, like Allison has followed all the rules and sort of fallen in line with that, whereas Rhaenyra is just sort of like she's a little bit of a badass. So she kind of reminds me of, at least in the mini series, she reminds me of Paul Atreides, and then she kind of reminds me of Luke Skywalker. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think that
Entitled. Thank you, Luna.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been drinking.
No, but it is interesting. They aged up the character, and this is
They
like
did,
film.
yeah.
Now,
Tony, have you seen that? Have you, Tony? By
Yeah.
the way, have you been watching any Dune stuff?
I would say this. It's so funny that I used to think that Dune was this other. I seen this movie, and I didn't like it. I think it was called like Alien Mine or something like that when I was.
Oh,
young.
I love that movie.
It was like where the alien got pregnant or something like that. The
Mhm.
guy and they're on the planet together. I didn't like that movie. I always thought that was Dune. Like when people used to bring up Dune, I thought that was Dune and everything. So I was like, I hated that. I couldn't stand this movie. This alien's pregnant and they're all they're making noises and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. But as for the recent Dune stuff, that's real Dune. I thought the first movie was okay. I have not watched the second movie. It's a lot to get into. Like it's a lot to get into. And Alienation, is it Alienation? Or
I think it's Alien Mind.
Yeah, Alienation is with the aliens.
I think it's Alien Mind. I think you're right. It's
ship.
these two guys who are like, they're like from different planets, and they are in opposition to their enemies, right? I love that movie. And the Alienation, yes, I am like
Alienation is totally different.
I'm having my syrup liquor.
So I've fallen in love with Dune now. Like over the last,
Dune's
just
amazing.
literally this month, I finally got fully sold. Heidi got me the books a long time ago. I listened to Quinn talk about Dune forever, and I was just like, oh, Dune is a lot of ideas, and Dune is not something you get specifics, and Dune is weird as fuck as you get into it, but Dune is great. But when we talk about, and somebody said something, can you be entitled when you have a title? I think that people praise like people like Rhaenyra, but Rhaenyra is able to do that. Allison isn't. And I'm not like getting back to that, but I'm just saying that like she's able to do all this. It's not just a strength of character. Allison doesn't have those choices. Like she has to do what she has to do. You can say, oh, she could say no. Not really. Same as in Shogun. They'll kill her. Like that's her property.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's always like, oh, Sansa just did what it's like. No, Sansa did what she was trained to do, and Arya said, I'm not going to do any of this in the car over there. I'm going to learn magic, and then have a bunch of guys die protecting me and learn. That's not a feasible thing to do. That's not a strong character. Sansa's a strong character. That's a realistic character. Like I hate that. I hate that fucking idea. I'm sorry.
They don't have any agency. They really have no agency over what they are able to do.
People hate the victims. They don't look at the times. They say Arya didn't do any of that. Arya was very unrealistic, and if she didn't have two guys die for her and then magic come into play, her ass would have been dead. Sansa did what she had to do. Sansa actually had to climb the ladder, had to do things.
He played the Game of Thrones.
There you go.
Yeah. Tony, so now that you've joined us, you're probably like, why the hell am I here?
I love being here. What are you, crazy? I look forward to the tweet when the tweet finally comes and like, what's Heidi waiting for? I watch all your shows. I don't communicate in the chat, but I watch every show you do. And,
you're the sweetest person ever.
I just don't, because a lot of times I watch from my television set because I have it hooked on my Roku box.
That's what I do too.
So I watch all your shows, I watch everything. I'm like, why has she contacted me to be on the show? Then when I get it, I'm like, yes, finally.
Are you kidding me? I love you. And it's funny because I was saying to Justin the other day that I thought like that Phil doesn't like me. Like I'm like, I said, I think because I told him he had apple cheeks. He had the cutest little apple cheeks
No,
ever.
he loves that you
Oh,
said
does
that.
he like that? Okay, because I thought he didn't like me.
No, he loves you. Are you crazy?
Okay, well,
Wait, who are you
You're always
talking about?
worried. You're
Phil.
always worried. Yeah,
Phil,
you're
the
always
issues
worried.
guy.
She's always
Phil
worried. Heidi's like, oh, I'm
does
too.
not have beef with a single
No,
person
yeah.
in
He
the
loves
world.
you.
He's literally the sweetest person you'll meet out here.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Tony's book. Actually,
I'll tell you who's got beef with you, Heidi.
I-
That nemesis you got from college. That girl's got beef.
Oh
with you.
gosh,
That's the one person. That's your enemy right there.
yes,
arch enemy?
I do have an enemy. Yes, I
You have
do.
an enemy?
It's crazy.
Yeah, and if you didn't, you did because you mentioned it, and I just mentioned it again. So if she ever watches, she's like, "Fuck." Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, okay, so guys, we probably should wrap up. And Tony, oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming on. Like, I love
for
having you
having
on.
me.
Anytime you want to come here, you're welcome.
Anytime you want me, I'm here.
And by the way, I love From. Like, it is such a great show. And
Great
Tony
show.
has
Come
done
on,
such a
come
great
on the
review of that
stream.
show.
Come on the stream. We'll be doing From streams. I just did it from stream. I'll be doing another one this week. And we'll be doing From streams. I already have set up interviews with all the actors. Again, only interviews I've gotten is because if people don't know behind the scenes, I contacted Heidi and I asked her, hey, how do I get an actor to come on my show? And she told me, and that's how I've gotten everybody on my shows because of the advice
using
that
a
she
network.
gave. You know what I mean? The advice that she gave me and everything else. So that is just what it is. So,
Aw.
yeah. So listen, come on. You're welcome to come on any From stream. You just let me know. Hey, I want to.
I would love to. I have to I want to contact the costume designer because I absolutely adore the costumes on the show. They're so interesting because you've got like you got that kind of like 1940s, 1950s, and then like they're in that like trailer and they're like digging into the clothes. They're like, here, let's find some clothes, and they look like 1980s or something. But I just love the show so much. And it's just, I'm really, really happy that it got the profile that it got. And especially by you. You did such a great job. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
One of the best horror shows. If anybody hasn't seen them, by the way, it's an amazing horror show. It's one of the best ones I think I've seen in a long time. So fresh, so different, really like unique.
Yeah, good job on not just like rewatching Game of Thrones, Tony. Good job on like covering other shows. I've seen some people just twiddle their thumbs. They're like, "So we're doing a rewatch again." I'm like, "Oh shit, maybe you should do something else, eh?"
Yeah, there's so many good things out there.
Yeah.
I don't know. You were talking about the bracelets. You have to explain that to me.
Yeah, when I stopped doing, like I was doing Game of Thrones and I'll be honest. I'll be honest about it. It was Carmine from Red Team Reviews who told me don't pigeonhole yourself in the one thing and cover other things. And he's the one who told me that and told me to change the name of my channel because my channel was I first came out was House Teflon was the name of it. And I was just doing the Game of Thrones and all that. And he told me, he's like, you should change your name so you don't pigeonhole yourself to doing one thing so you can cover other things. And that's when I changed to the Teflon TV and I covered other things. And then I felt it to be like, after watching Game of Thrones and everything else, that I felt like I didn't want to just cover shows unless they had a person of color in the main cast. And that's what it really got to. Like I need to have a person of color, and that's what I started doing. I said, I'm going to cover. If they don't have a person of color in the main cast, it's not realistic to me. I'm not going to cover these shows anymore. And then that's the shows I started covering because of that, and shows that I liked and things like that. And From just happened to be a show when I was covering, not really no one was covering the first season when I did it on there, and we got great reviews on it and great stuff on it, and then everyone's on it now. And I'm so happy that because it deserves to be seen.
Season
and
3,
it's a really good show. And I tell anybody else, just watch the first episode, and if you ain't good with it, then you let me know.
Well, it's a taste. You're a taste changer too. It's a thing of it's a good show if somebody you trust is covering it. That's a service that you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like it's not that you're going to cover something everybody's watching. Cover something and hope other people watch it because they do respect your taste and they know that you do. You're not just going to cover anything like you said. No, so it's a good business model.
I actually saw like somebody posted about From, and I was like, they were like, "This is the best horror
it's
genre.
a really good show." It's very unique.
It's so unique and so different, and I loved it. And of course, like as Tony was saying, there's a person of color. Same with House of the Dragon. Like Steven Toussaint is,
Steven Toussaint. He's a good guy.
Such a great guy
on Twitter.
And Tony, I think have you interviewed him?
Steve Toussaint.
That's your boy, isn't it?
From House of the Dragon, Steve Toussaint. You're saying?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, you had him on there.
That's my man. Like I told you,
I love him.
Like, that's my man.
By the way, his costume in the trailer is so great. Like as one of my favorite outfits in the trailer. So and also I just did an interview with Justin did the video, but we interviewed Jessica DeLance from who did like the rings. And Steven was one of the people who he posted pictures of his hand with the sigil ring, Justin.
Yeah, personally, there's actually personal pictures on his Insta from
his Instagram.
He supports the brand, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, he seems like the nicest person.
He's mad cool.
He is.
Yeah.
He's mad cool. Like
he handles
it.
Yeah, he handles that character very well.
He's
I've
so
had
good.
a lot of personal conversations with him on the low.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's my man. And I'll tell you, that's my man. I'm saying that's my man. That mean that's my man. We cool. That's my man for the grab. Like we cool. You know what I mean? And everything. He's a cool cat. You know what I mean? And he truly appreciates.
He's very humble.
Right. He's appreciative. He's not like he deserved it or he should have got it. He really appreciates everything. You know what I mean? And again, when you go look at the interview that I talked to him, and you look at the interview time that he gave that I got compared to other ones, it's not even close. And the stuff that we talked about, it's not like, but he said, he talked about, the racism that he got just from getting the role. You know what I mean? Just from being cast as that role. And that's how we got cool. Because when people were beefing at him on his Twitter, I told him, I was like, listen, Steve, don't respond. I got this for you. Yeah. And then he responded to me saying, yo, thank you for having my back, brother. I really appreciate that. And then we just started talking after that and we got cool after that. You know what I mean? But
there was a like I was showing this to my husband today. There's a scene with Steven Toussaint wearing his beautiful outfit. And I think he's meeting up with Rhaenyra. And I said, oh, look, there's actual Black people in House of the Dragon. Like, like that's super woke, to have actual people of color in a medieval fantasy series, because there's been so much stuff going on recently, especially with Star Wars, where people are like losing their minds
because people get so thrown into a fit.
So
they say it's woke and all this. Like Steven Toussaint, I can only think of maybe Idris Elba. Do you agree, Tony?
Oh yeah.
Nobody else could really pull that role off because you need him to be like stoic, strong, but measured. In Steven Toussaint,
have a commanding presence.
Thank you. Like you need that, and he has to be different. He's a Valerian, not a Targaryen, so there needs that racial divide. Actually helps the character. So people flipped out. They're like, George. I'm like, did he say he was white? Like, I don't know, but I'm mad. I'm mad because Disney did some things, and I'm mad. I'm just mad now. Nonstop.
These are the same people that had issues with the characters of Rue and I forget what the other guy's name, but I'm pretty sure he was played by Lenny Kravitz. They were upset that a young Black girl was cast to play the part of Rue. It literally says in the book, this is a girl with brown skin. And the
they're like
fanboys,
district,
they could not handle it not being a Caucasian kid. Yeah,
you're talking about
it's absurd. The whole argument is
George did it right. By the way,
right?
He's a white dude. Yeah. Like he never did that. You know what I mean?
No,
exactly. It's ridiculous.
George had said straight up that his initial thoughts were to make the whole Targaryens black. That's what he wanted to do, but he said the reason why he didn't do it is because he didn't believe that the white audience would appreciate Black people on Dragonback conquering a Caucasian place, and that's why he switched it for.
And he was 100% correct.
But that's what he wanted to do. That's what he wanted them to be. That was, and then he walked back. He said, I didn't want to do the whole Black dark elves things too, because Targaryens, they're not Caucasian. They're their own race. You know what I mean? They're their own race. Which you can't do that on screen because we only have a couple of races here, but that's what they're supposed to be. It's like the White Walkers are more Valyrian than they are the White Walkers that we've seen on the show.
Yeah.
And they had to put them like that in the show to make them look scary, but they're not supposed to be scary. They're supposed to be beautiful and
they're actually very pretty. Yeah, you're right.
That's why I appreciated Tony in this, because this is one of the last like parts that I was a part of for Game of Thrones. Like there was rightful people, because Valyrians are definitely a different race in the story, right? So they're definitely separate. So when people ask how could a black man be, now we're just talking about show watchers. If they said how could how could he be black? It took good content creators to explain that to them. That's not racist to ask. So people just dealt with this so terribly. They were like, oh my God, you must be. Some people had, because they're always like, I thought all Targaryens, you have to explain to them first off, not all Targaryens, or that's not the Valyrians. There's Valyrians and Targaryens. So you needed to separate that. We're talking about show only watchers that thought it was Dany with the silver, like the hair and all that. That's what they knew them as. So all they heard was, there's going to be a black target. No. So like there was good content creators with rationale and some fucking patience to actually sit there and not scream racist at those people. And then they wait for the actual racist people that are idiots to come. But like there was legitimate questions. That's your job as a content creator. That are you claim to be an expert on the story. Talk about where the Valyrians come from. Talk about how it's very possible they are this. George never made them one way. George, in fact, like Tony just said, wanted to make clearly the Targaryens a different race than everybody else. They're not the same as the other white people. So like this is something that should be just explained. And then you wait and you see how good the people do. They do it well. They do the story well. I think it's stronger for it. There's just so many people jumping to conclusions here on the internet lately. It's just, Star Wars is woke. It's what the fuck is woke? Shut up. If I hear woke come out your mouth.
Yeah, it was funny because I was saying this to Jack the other day that like it's sort of strange because the Imperial are supposed to be like Nazis, and then the the Resistance are supposed to be sort of like they could be like Frank Herbert's Dune. They're Arabs, they're resistors, and so it's just sort of strange that people are like assigning this to be. Someone was saying this on YouTube the other day or Instagram that I've idealized this as a samurai story for young men, and it's about space travel, and it's about using weapons and so on. But meanwhile, it's like, do you know anything about George Lucas? Like he was actually making some statements here. About
very political statements.
And meanwhile, you're just sort of like you're a white supremacist, and you're sort of ascribing to that. Sorry, I've had too much to drink.
No, you're fine. It's all about kind of like Tony handled this right.
Apologize.
No, Tony handled this correctly. The House of the Dragon.
Tony's got his giant mug.
The Dragon Demands handled this well. This is what I'm talking about. Because you should not just jump to, because a very basic question from a show only watcher would have been at this time, because they would have heard, they needed to know what a Valyrian was before, because they wouldn't have known. Right? We're not talking about book readers. You can't assume this is your job if you sit at home and make videos about this, which isn't easy. Lena. You know what I mean? Like you need to be a content creator that helps people understand the story. That's your first job. So, but I saw a lot of people just jump to being like, oh my God, like in this pointing racist at this and that. No, explain the story first, explain it to them. And they still have a problem, then you got a problem. Get what I mean? Like, so people, I'm happy for people like Tony, Dragon Demands. They all explained this very well. They talked about how in the books it's never specifically stated. They didn't make it a big issue. You know what I mean? Like that, because this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be stories that people learn from.
By the way, the Dragon Demands, I keep trying to get him to come on here, but I
don't think he's a live stream fellow.
He's not into, I had him on one time, like probably like 5 years ago. He is such an interesting dude though. Like he really is.
You can tell that if you follow him on Twitter.
Yeah. And I was like going on about how the women were wearing in House of the Dragon season 1, women were wearing like strapless bras. And he's like, well, like, is that like, compared to what? Like the anachronistic, like, corsets they were wearing in Game of Thrones. And I'm like, no. Like we were getting into discussion. Yeah. He's just such an interesting guy. Like he's really, really funny.
He's a New Yorker, and listen, New
exactly. He
are
is
not afraid to speak their mind. Period.
At any given point in time.
When you deal with anyone from New York, We talking our shit. Especially from New York City. We gonna talk it.
But, right. If you from any one of them 5 boroughs, right. See, yeah. And,
He's got a
just
really
like
deep
Tony
voice,
said,
too.
nah,
Like,
we will get at you.
he's like, hi there.
Hi there.
Oh, and this has been so much
Hilarious.
fun. Like Tony, oh my gosh, I hope you come back. I have to
love
take a
coming
little
back.
break from doing Shogun live streams, but for the next 2 weeks, just so I can recover. But I hope you will come back
I
at
would
some
love to.
point. Like we can talk about something else.
Do you think it's
Anytime.
possible they all
You
die
can-
in an earthquake?
And you can come on from stream if you want.
Whenever you want me to come on, I would
Well, I
love
do-
to.
I
I'd
do
love
miss
to talk
you
about the
because
costumes.
Yeah, so you want to talk about, anytime we do it, I'm doing it every week. So
I
I'm
love
there every
Smiley. He's so awesome.
I had him on. He's a man.
I know you did.
He's a man. He was so grateful to get that role, and
I
so
love that.
happy
Hmm.
that because he came on as an extra, and got promoted to the main cast in that season when he did. But he came on as just a straight extra who was just given a role and he ran with it. And that's what it's all about. You take a role, and he became like the most memorable monster of them all.
Oh yeah, and they use them in the posters and everything.
That's what I'm saying.
Is that the same kid that was on Gotham, Tony? Or
No,
one
it
of those
looks
shows?
like him,
Or
but
is that
it
yeah,
looks
they
like
have
him, but
very
it's not.
similar faces. Yeah.
Because we said that he should play the young Joker when he's on. We
Is
didn't
he
need the
is he
Joker.
from Nova Scotia?
Yes,
you know?
he's from, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so I used to live in Nova Scotia. So I'm dying to kind of know where that like place is and everything. I want to
You
kind of go
should
visit
go
there.
You should go visit there. You should
I'd love
there
to
and
go.
take pictures.
But they built the set though, didn't they? The
The
diner and
whole
everything.
set is built from
Yeah.
scratch there. Everything about it.
Nice.
So that's why I tell people when you watch
That's cool.
that everything is placed there for a reason because they built this from scratch. So when you see something, you have to really pay attention because they wouldn't have put it there if it didn't mean anything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love it. Like I said, I love the costumes, but I love the show. I can't wait for do you know when the next season's coming?
I will have the Donna on in 2 weeks. She'll be on from set. She'll be on, and we'll talk about the exact release date.
Nice.
Oh, amazing. That's so great. Okay, so we should probably wrap up because Mama has to go to bed.
For sure. It is a school night. It
Like,
is a school night after all.
It's a school night, and yeah, I have to work tomorrow. Thanks for everyone who's came out tonight, by the way. Okay, so anyway, let's go around. Alicia, tell us about what you're up to, what we
Let's
have coming up.
That's what we have coming up. Tomorrow we are doing Jaxbox gaming on the Citadel Trivia channel. I'll probably be around for about an hour or two, just marinating BYOB and come for the lulls. And Sunday I'll be on with Meeks, and I believe Heidi is also going to be there.
Please invite me.
I don't know the schedules just yet, but Tone and Justin might also make an appearance. That'd be lovely. And we're going to talk about this, dissect this new trailer. And also, again, we know Tony's got that stream coming up with Grace, so make sure y'all catch that one.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Also, and then next Tuesday, Monday, I think I may finally start Halo or possibly something else. Undecided on that just yet, but for sure Wednesday, me and Meeks will be on Shogun episode 3. And I think we're doing Invincible with DJ11 and Fandom on Thursday. It's either Invincible or the Bad Batch, one of the two.
Oh, tell
So
Fandom
stay
I say
tuned.
hello, by the way.
I will.
I love him. And I'd love to connect with him again. He's just so lovely.
He's a good guy.
Tony, what have you got coming up? What
I
are you
used to.
working
I
on?
love playing those Jackbox. It brings back good memories of Jackbox streams. And all
Always
that.
fun times.
It was a great time playing the murder mystery trivia and all that. So I had a great time.
That's our most popular one. Yeah.
Yeah, I had great times playing those things. I love it. I have great times doing it. Will be the usual suspects of Don Tony Teflon, Phil the Issues Guy, Kaize, Souza, Bridge 4, Big Kev. We'll be doing a stream on this trailer, joined by a gray area. Maybe we'll have all the girls, the whole Daiwo City. We'll see who shows up, but Gray will definitely be there. We'll be going over this on the weekend. I'll have my video dropping tomorrow sometime. Still working on it right now. I'll probably work on it for another hour, and then I'm going to bed wherever it's at, and then we'll finish it up. After that, we'll be doing a From stream next week. We have the From and Alicia. Halo was not as bad as people are saying. I was going to cover the show myself, but I just don't have the time. But it's not. It's that's really this season is really good. So I don't know.
I've heard that too. Yeah,
people just hating on it.
Nothing like the video game, Tony. It's nothing like the video game. The story. I know.
The funny thing about that is all the stuff that's in the show is in the game. It's just part of the prequel footage. They're doing the timeline order and boys, I can't stand it.
It's not me playing the video game, Alicia. It's not me playing the video game. I'm so mad.
It's a decent job. It's a decent job. Listen, I really hope that, listen, the number one thing and video games, if you're talking about that, they got to get right, is they got to get the God of War right. So we'll see. That should be out in a couple of years, the God of War. Hopefully, that should be, it's the God of War Ragnarok is what they're going to be doing too on Prime Video and stuff. So they got the rights and they'll be putting that out. But after that, that's what I'll be doing and everything else. And I'll just be streaming, dropping videos like I always do and stuff, working on my book until it's done and until it's done with the editing process. And we'll be putting that right out. Hopefully a month. I think the longest would be a month and a half. So sooner than later it'll be out. So
I was gonna say Pablo Schreiber, who I adore him. Like he is the mustache in what's that show called?
The mustache.
Porn Stash. He's Porn Stash, but he's also in
Orange is the New Black.
Orange is the New Black.
That's right.
But he's also in American Gods. Loved him. He was like the Scott, like the Irish.
Was he the Leprechaun King?
The Leprechaun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, so my husband is really, really enjoying that show. But Tony, I would love to come on and talk about From anytime.
Love to have you. Have you watched Constellation? Have you watched that show?
Husband is watching Constellation. It's a little bit
on the list.
You know what? Honestly, I was not like on board until the last episode, and I'm totally like on board now.
I haven't watched yet. I hear it's very cerebral, but I haven't watched it.
It's very
yet.
cerebral.
I'm looking forward to it.
I was like, okay, what the fuck is going on? And then the last episode, I was like, whoa.
It is hard to track. You got to pay attention to every second.
Husband's like, I get what's going on.
Amazing show.
So I have to hit him and ask him what's happening.
Well, it's like when you watch a show. Yeah, you watch a show now, and like not only did I watch Lost, I understood it. You know what I mean? Like you have to be like very.
I think we're like. So what are we on episode 4 or something like that? I love the actor Numi Rapace. I love her. She's great. Love her. She's wonderful.
Oh, Lumi's on.
But it's kind of like a drinking game. Every time they say Alice, you should take a drink and then you'll be really drunk.
Mommy,
Mama, Mama, Alice.
But it all means something. And that's the whole thing. It all means something.
And the actor who's in it, like from Breaking Bad, amazing. Like I can't remember the actor's name. Walter. No, not Walter.
Not Walter White. No.
Mike from
Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
He plays
Okay.
He plays Bud and Henry.
Henry. Yeah, he's really great. So many good shows there right now, right?
Yeah. It's
not
not
keeping us busy.
It's not the golden age, but we're not far from it. We're not far from it. I mean, the golden age.
No, we're doing pretty good,
but we're not far from that.
No, I think we're doing pretty good. Love From. Anyway, so Justin, do you have anything you want to add?
If you make videos and you like think it takes a long time to edit them, I'll do that for you for money. So like always do that, because like you could be doing other stuff and I could be doing
that promo out there, baby.
Yeah. All I'm saying is it's just like you're wasting your time, and I could be a great help to you. Give me some money.
You gotta put the money, the dollars, how much it's gonna cost these people.
Well, Tony, I would argue that it's worth the money.
I'm trying to. By the way, I'm trying to work on like a reaction of the costumes to the latest trailers of House of the Dragon, but I was just like, this is just like. I'm like trying to do something very cheap and cheerful, very quick, but it's sort of hard. But anyway, I'll try and get something out to Justin. What about you, Alicia? What do you have going? Oh, we already asked you, didn't I? Already asked you.
It's past Heidi. It's past Heidi's bedtime, y'all.
Can I get everybody? Can I go to bed now?
Yeah.
And please pass on a happy name day to your son. I hope he
totally.
enjoys the time away with you.
Have
Okay,
fun with
did I
adulthood
miss
and all these
anybody?
fun things.
Justin, did I miss anybody?
I
God,
think we're good. Did you like this year of the Gilded Age? Did you like this season?
I actually really liked it. What did you think, Tony?
I thought it was good. I thought it was good. I think they did a really good job this season.
I really liked it. I thought it was a little bit goofy. Like there were some things I was like a little bit goofy, but then I kind of came to really like Jack's storyline about the watch. I thought that was really kind of cool.
I thought so,
Right?
too.
Yeah, Jack with the inventor. That
very handsome inventor.
yes.
He's gonna
Thanks,
take over the
Jackie.
whole house. He's gonna take over the whole house. He's gonna be the big money one in the house.
He is. Absolutely. Good for him. Good for Jack.
And good for that lady that shits on him. I like her. That's always like, yeah, that ain't gonna be anything, because she's likely in most cases right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's
Good for her.
nasty.
Yeah, she's just a nasty bitch. And I like,
Yeah.
yeah, you and your ambitions, you idiot.
She's a
You're an
Debbie
idiot.
Downer.
Yeah, because that works out probably more than not. Not every time there's success. You're usually right. Good for her.
She is. She's just she's a piece of work. Anyway, okay, so guys, this should probably end it. I have to go to bed. Yes, I'm slurring.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Y'all should have seen her on a 24-hour stream.
Yes, exactly. Oh yeah, it was funny because I saved that. I saved the 24-hour
Really?
stream, and I was like,
I'll
I
delete
should
it.
release some of it.
No.
You should have seen it on the After Dark stream. Great.
Oh, the After
yeah,
Dark. Don't release
We've
that.
had that experience too.
All those are breaching the
That's
contract.
deleted, so you don't have to worry about that.
Thank you, Tony.
Tony has like all the blackmail evidence in the studio.
He does. I found it,
files.
Justin. I found the 24-hour stream on my
Oh.
desktop the other day. I'm like, hey, I should release some of this.
Hilarious.
I'm wearing bunny
I have
ears.
Yeah, I have access. I'll delete it. I'll get it if you put it.
Can you send it to me so I can make some
I
funny
will.
clips? I'm also actually quick announcement. I just forgot. I almost forgot. I am only some odd hours around the 60 markish, I think, of watch time on my channel to be able to be monetized. So if y'all would get them views going for me, I'd appreciate that.
That's it.
And I need to make some shorts. So if you could send me that file, I can clip out some funny shorts and put them out.
Yeah.
So I
I'll
can
have
make
to
the
make sure
requirements.
that
10
it has to
million
be
views
clean.
for shorts. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, Luna, Heidi was on After Dark. Luna, she was on there. Her,
I was.
Yeah, she
I
was.
think she was there. She was on there. We talked that talk.
We did. Yes.
was a great
was
time.
naughty
And it was
naughty.
hilarious.
Not there.
Okay. Well, I love you guys so much. And thanks everyone in the chat, by the way. You guys were awesome
We heard
tonight.
you
This has
guys
been
too.
so fun. Okay. So have a lovely evening, everyone.
Nice and
You'll,
nice.
you'll never make it. You know. I like
Bye,
that.
everyone.
Cool behavior. It's cool.
Okay,
It's
I'm
a cool
ending
way
the
to be.
stream. Bye, everyone.
Last line, Tony, go.